Hi, everyone. Most of you are probably watching this recorded, so thanks for taking your time to watch. Hi, Ryan, my brother, and everyone else. For those of you who are, I don't know if I might be a little late, but I'm just saying hello, welcome. Thanks so much for watching. I am getting Nicole on board, but as we wait for Nicole, I actually have the first of our special guests. So I'm going to add Madikin here to our stream. You guys probably remember Madikin. Madikin.
Hello, I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, you probably remember Madikin if you are someone who has listened to our podcast before as our nuclear expert. She's come on to our Godzilla episode. She came on to our Mission Impossible Fallout episode. I'm really just always looking for an excuse to have you on, Madikin.
Thank you. Well, I'm glad that there's enough nuclear things in pop culture that I can be on. So
Yeah.
perfect. Yeah.
Although you probably wish they were a little more accurate.
Yeah, that's true. But it is fun to go on and kind of talk about the physics. And if it was perfect, then it wouldn't be as fun, right? So, I mean,
True.
Magical healing radiation from Godzilla seems like that would be awesome if that was real, you know.
Yeah, it would be. At this point, I would really love some magical healing radiation from Godzilla. I'm holding my mic up as if I'm using it, but I'm using my webcam mic, so.
Well, you could use both, like double mic it, I think that would work.
I know that Nicole is like the grand attraction of this live stream event because she's going to write some music live and I'm going to attempt to help her poorly. But I also have a brownie to eat as promised.
Wow, brownie time.
But before I eat my brownie, I just was in a mood to get French fries, so I went to Raising Cane's and also got fried chicken.
Do you have candles for your brownie for your birthday episode? Your That's Not How Science Works anniversary birthday?
Do I what?
You have candles for your brownie.
I don't. Even though in the picture for the live stream I had candles, so it was clearly a lie.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, the brownie cake is a lie.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. We can make other pop culture references too, right?
Yeah. I was going to ask you, I did not pre-give this question to Madigan, so if you don't know, that's okay. Have we talked before about any like media, like movies or TV that actually does nuclear stuff well? I guess it's probably a very short list that starts and ends with Chernobyl. Like,
yeah. Okay. So I will say I have not watched Chernobyl, but based on what the people I like their okay. So there's some.
I assume that was a thing that your field talked about when it was going on.
Yeah.
I mean, like when the show was actively on. Obviously, you also talked about Chernobyl when it was happening.
Yeah.
But not you because you were not alive.
Yeah. I was not capable of talking about it at the time. But yes, okay, so the show, a lot of nuclear engineers talked about, a lot of people in my community talked about it when it came out. The people that I respect and that I enjoy talking about nuclear issues with are overall really liked the show. I think they said there were some minor inaccuracies about the difference sort of between contamination and exposure a little bit. But
I can see that.
But I don't actually know because I didn't watch it. I've been meaning to watch it. I just, there's so many things on. So
admittedly, I watched one episode and because I thought it was going to be like a cool documentary and then it was a drama. And then I was like, oh no, this is going to be a downer. And I have not finished it since, even though there are apparently only 4 episodes. So.
Oh, I didn't realize there was only 4. So apparently, in terms of radiation sort of fields, right? There's radiation biology and medical physics and health physics, which is about the human body and how it interacts with radiation and stuff like that. But so the show Chernobyl, they also talk a lot about something called reactor physics, which is understanding the physics that govern how a nuclear reactor runs. And so depending on the materials that make up your reactor and what fuel you put into it, you have sort of different physics that happen or can have different effects. So for example, okay, so we come up with all these kind of reactor physics equations to predict or to describe how the reactor is going to behave. And so, for example, a very common sort of physics thing is we look at reactivity feedback. And so there can be lots of types of feedback. We can look at a fuel temperature coefficient or a coolant temperature coefficient of reactivity, meaning like as something changes in temperature, how much more reactive will the reactor become, or like how much more quickly will nuclear reactions happen. And so apparently the way that they describe reactor physics in the show Chernobyl is very good. So yeah, I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, you just said it and I've already forgotten. The type of nuclear where it's like nuclear medicine, that's like MRIs and stuff too, right? It's not just like how does this damage your body, but also how can we use it to tell what's happening in your body?
Yes, yeah. So radiation health physics is like a very broad field that can have a lot of different sort of jobs within it. And then specifically medical physics is like its own umbrella of like radiation and medicine. So medical physicists are people who would like prescribe a round of radiation treatment for a patient, for example. They also, I think, oversee, or they have some say in like different types of nuclear medicine instrumentation that's used in hospitals. In general, like when we would get some sort of like an x-ray or something, right? It's not a big deal because like if you're only having one every few years, you're not like increasing your dose a lot. But if you would have a lot, then they might weigh in. I don't actually know specifically. But so like when you're doing medical treatments, like you might have a round of radiation, but also there's like you can add radiation to the body in a lot of different pathways. And so, for example, you could use like a targeted beam, or you could like put an emitter, like it's called brachytherapy, like small little pebbles of a radioactive element, and then you put it in a tumor or something like that. So that way
I thought you were going to say that you like swallow them, and I was like, what's happening?
No, you would not. I mean, well,
let's not have radium girls. No.
Yeah, I don't think.
Don't swallow radioactive material.
Yeah, no. Like, let's minimize the dose to everything else. So, like, you don't need to irradiate your mouth or anything like that.
Although I guess like barium, when you're doing X-rays, is barium? That's not radioactive, is it?
Well,
you know what I'm talking about? Side note, now I'm going to have to look up the article, but I recently read something about my alma mater, Texas A&M, using beams to like sanitize N95s. So let me see if I can find the article.
Yeah, I mean, they could. There's also a professor, a nuclear engineering professor here at the University of Illinois, who is like semi-famous on YouTube, and he came up with a like way you could modify your microwave to like sanitize masks. So
I heard the big challenge with that is when they have metal on them.
Yeah, I actually this is another thing I'm not very helpful with.
Oh, it is not your area. I see. We repeatedly bring you on to talk about things you didn't study, like nuclear bombs and nuclear medicine and plutonium.
I mean, well, okay, I should know a little bit about plutonium, but it's true I'm not like a huge weapons expert.
So all I read was the headline, which actually I should be pulling this up on my computer so I can share it with you. But the headline is sterilizing respirators at Texas A&M's electron beam facility.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It was like, oh, look at this cool thing. And I'm like, yeah, but like how many places have an electron beam facility?
Oh, but electron beams are very cool. Yeah. So that's neat. That's really, really cool. I mean, yeah, electrons are cool too, you know, and still like nuclear, it's still part of, you know, it's still atomic, not nuclear, I guess, but you know, electrons are neat. So, okay, there are isotopes of barium that are unstable. Quite a few. There's a lot of isotopes of barium.
Yeah.
But there are stable ones too. Like there's Yeah, there's like ones that don't decay. Or have I mentioned this in the podcast before that like there is this idea that all elements are radioactive? It's just like we can't. Their half lives are such long time scales that we haven't measured them.
I mean, excuse me. I think that makes sense in terms of like everything decays over time. It's just like how long is the time? And like I
Right.
never actually studied any of the like chaos theory, relativity, whatever stuff, you know, but it feels like, oh yeah, systems get like things decay.
Yeah.
Logically, it makes sense.
Right. I think. Well, I like it. I like the theory because like when we were taught in nuclear engineering, sort of, it's like that this is just stable. You don't assume it's going away. You know, like there's things that have very long half lives, but then other ones not so much. You know, but man, atoms are cool. I'm just happy that I get to be on the pod with you all and then talk about radiation. You know, but nuclear is cool because there's so many subfields also. So like no matter what, if we're talking about nuclear things, I will probably give a caveat of this is not what I do because I can't, like what I actually do, I don't think is ever going to be put in a movie. It's not that interesting. Like simulating reactors is not going to like be a good plot point.
Well, I was just going to say, like, also these days, like, you don't do simulating reactors as much as you do like general coding.
Also true. Yes,
So
also true. Yeah.
conveniently, when you're simulating reactors with computers, you learn how to do things with computers well.
Who would have known? Who would have guessed? Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's true. I mean, you know, as soon as you start like writing, once you start solving equations, like using computational methods, you see how it like applies to lots of different science, you know? So for example, the physics we use to do radiation transport in reactors is like the same, just on very different scales that are used to simulate like astrophysics related things. So like star formation or galaxy formation. Now their physics might be different and like look a lot different because obviously they're not like inside a building and there's like very different pressures and temperatures involved, but it's still like radiation moving around. So it's kind of cool.
yeah.
I'm selling it to you. I'm totally selling it to you.
I am, just for clarity, I am trying to tweet out the link so we get some viewers.
Ooh, excellent.
But yeah, it feels like radiation is everywhere.
It is. It's all around
and
us.
It's in everything.
Yeah, it is in everything. It's inside us, Caitlin. It's inside you and me.
Every time. We got Nicole. Okay, I'm gonna add her. I'm gonna add her.
Just a second, I gotta pull my brownies out of the.
Okay.
That was amazing.
Getting her brownies.
Okay, I feel like I should have prepared. Should I have prepared with brownies? I don't even have like a.
I mean, you don't have to. We just promised we would have some kind of celebratory thing, but then both of us preferred just making brownies to making cake. So,
I mean, brownies are generally better than cake.
Yeah, that's
especially homemade. Especially homemade. Like I love cakes, but like my cakes at home are never.
I know this is kind of controversial, but I think both many cakes and definitely brownies are not worth the effort to make from scratch. Like,
oh yeah,
I would rather just buy the box mix. I will say there's obviously some cakes that a box mix is never gonna shape up if they even make them. Like if I'm making carrot cake, I don't even think you can get a boxed carrot cake, or if you can, it's terrible. I'm making my family's from scratch carrot cake recipe. But one time I bought special cake flour and I made a fancy cake and then I ate it and I was like, this was 3 times the effort of a boxed cake and it was basically the same.
Like every time I watch the Great British Bake Off, I'm like, I could do this. And then I try and I make like the nailed it version and it looks horrible and sad. And I just am like, well, you know what? I should just buy this because like clearly that like I'm a professional in one area and it's not baking.
Well, if it'll make you feel better too. Now, this is not true of Great British Bake Off. They're just amazing. But I watched actually a YouTube video that was really interesting that was talking about sort of a little bit of the science of baking and why like sometimes box cakes mixes, like you as a home baker cannot match it because they have commercial grade emulsifiers and other commercial grade stuff that you just can't get. So like they said, if you want a very fluffy cake, like box cake is where you get the really fluffy, because the fluffiness comes from how well the fats and liquids are emulsified together. And like that's already done in the box cake for you.
Or if you have like a very good mixer, then wouldn't all of this also be solved? If you can like, because emulsifying comes from like really good sort of like fast whisking, right?
Not necessarily. There's also an aspect. So they were talking about how like, obviously like oil and water don't want to mix. But a lot of times you'll add an egg, and then the egg yolk specifically helps to like emulsify the yolk and the water. So that's what you do at home. But like these commercial grade emulsifiers they have are actually in the mix itself, and they do a better job than you like whipping an egg in. Even if you had now, like, I don't know, maybe if I had a super commercial grade mixer, but in the video they actually make like 2 different versions of a cake. But then the person who's like hosting the video, I'll have to find it and post a link on Twitter or something and in the comments of this video, because it was a fascinating video. The person watching it was like, I can see like the baker who made these for me, everything she said about the differences are true, but I actually like prefer the homemade version of this one cake, but I prefer the box version of this other cake. So it's very interesting.
Science.
Yeah, and then brownies are very different because brownies like are supposed to be dense and chocolatey. I think for me it's just that like if you get the Ghirardelli brownie mix, it's extremely good and it's so good. Extremely low effort. All you do is add like an egg, water, and oil. And then you bake it for 50 minutes.
Also, when I'm in the headspace where I need brownies, usually I'm not like in a high point of my energy. It's usually like, you know, I'm feeling sad or like, I don't know, like I'm really craving chocolate. So I don't want to like go through the long process of doing everything from scratch. Like I need some Insta brownies, you know?
Exactly. I did do a cool thing with brownies last time I made them though, not this time, which is that we went to the farmer's market and we bought like a bunch of mint for like $1. And then my sister was like, how are we going to use up all this mint before it goes bad? So we like sent some with my brother for mimosas, and we had some in like the drinks we had that day. And then I took the rest of the mint and I just like chopped it up, crushed it in my mortar and pestle, and then like put it in the oil.
What?
Nicole!
That would be so good.
Sorry.
Yeah, so we made mint brownies.
And then I didn't realize it.
I'm impressed that you were able to add yourself though.
I said that I could add myself.
Perfect. Well, that's good. Probably because I'd previously added you, so you were like approved.
Ooh, okay. Approved.
I am going to try changing the view.
A way to set up my living room. Like it's the best, I don't know, stream this mess that is music.
I think it's not going to be a mess. It's art.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay. Well, art can be messy. So.
Say hi to all our viewers watching this recording, because so far that's everyone watching this. Thanks, people watching the recording.
That's, you know what I said when I decided that we should do this is it would be fun even if no one shows up.
I agree.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Also, like maybe they want to watch afterwards because they want to be able to pause and rewind to be able to hear all the important stuff you're saying.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, look, I could come up with many reasons.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Okay, you still can't see the keyboard, but I don't think I could get this at an angle where you could see the keyboard.
So, Nicole, are your brownies? Do you have your brownies on like a separate plate?
They weren't quite done yet.
Oh, okay.
Now I understand your delay. I wish that I could send you brownies, but unfortunately we live half a country away.
Let's see. You can't see my head then.
Well, if you kind of hunched.
Is that better? There. Now we can see your keyboard.
You can see my keyboard in my messy apartment.
I see no mess. Nothing.
There's just like it's everywhere.
There's no such thing as mess in the time of COVID.
Yes, I agree with that. Be kind to yourself.
This is true. Okay.
Okay, doesn't this kind of look like an anteater or something?
Wait, are you eating chicken nuggets?
They're chicken tenders.
Oh my god, it does look like a dinosaur.
It does.
Yeah, because I went to Cane's.
Ooh, I like it.
As both of you may know, the only 2 Cane's in the entire Twin Cities are the 2 that are on the U of M campus. So I had to go to the college campus to get my chicken. And like, college is weird, man.
I've actually never been to Cane's, so yeah, maybe next time I come go to Minnesota, we can go because
there is one in our hometown.
There is.
It's newish.
Okay, because I was like, I feel like I don't remember this.
Yeah, it's over by Andover.
There you go. Maybe my brownies are done now.
Maybe they are. Okay, so I found out that a place near me that it's like a dairy, does home delivery if you want.
What?
Yes, and they deliver like in glass bottles, and so I'm considering it, right? So I called to get a quote, and the name, I mean, I don't know, but so the name is Overweiss Dairy, but I didn't know that was the number, and so I have Google screen my calls, and when Google transcribed it, it transcribed Overweiss Dairy to Overweight Berry. And I like can't get over it. I've been laughing about it all day long.
Ouch, Google be mean.
I know. Hey, it's Overweight Berry calling. And it's like berry, it spelled it like a blueberry berry, you know? So it was just
that's amazing.
All I could think of was like a giant blueberry calling me. And it was really great. It made me really
It was that girl from
from Willy Wonka. Yeah.
Veruca?
Yeah.
Was it Veruca?
I don't remember the names of anybody.
Anyway, you know what I mean about Overweight Berry.
I mean, I'm so amused by it. So yeah, we'll see.
What did they quote you? Is it reasonable?
It's
an extravagance.
It's definitely extravagant. Okay, so like I'm considering it because it seems like maybe like more direct like way to buy dairy from a producer, right? And like so if I get it, so like okay, so in Illinois there's like a huge deposit on these glass bottles. It's like $2 a bottle. But
that's not as huge as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I think in California it's more actually, but from what I remember. But so like the thing is, I wouldn't create a lot of plastic waste because they would be they take the glass when they come to another delivery. And so I'm trying to decide if it's like within, like I could probably afford it, but I'm trying to decide if it's like necessary. Well, it's definitely an extravagance, but I'm trying to decide whether it's like an extravagance I'm willing to indulge in or not.
Is it worth cutting back somewhere else?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
In terms of sacrifices we're trying to make for the betterment of the planet, I am attempting to switch to solid shampoo and solid conditioner. Because at first I wasn't going to, because like the early ones that like became popular all had sulfates in them, and I've been washing my hair with sulfate-free shampoo for several years now. But recently there's a couple that are like sulfate-free, although they lather pretty well, so I'm very suspicious of this. Like it seems like they still have a surfactant in them.
Are you talking about these are like bar shampoos and bar conditioners?
They're like, excuse me, sorry. They're like little solid bars.
Yeah.
And the ones I'm getting actually are called High Bar, so you'll probably now see the ads on Instagram. Sorry, I've cursed you. But I saw them on Instagram, and then I found out they were local, and then I was like, well, I'm not going to pay for shipping. I'm just going to go to the co-op, because of course the co-op has like 5 different versions of this.
Of course they do, yeah.
But they're like this little, the nice thing about this particular brand is they're like this little like oblong spheroid thing. It's like a teardrop shape with one flat edge. And the nice thing, so the shampoo I'm actually really enjoying, although I am like distrustful of it not having a surfactant. I really think it has a surfactant in it because of how well it lathers. Which if you're watching this and you don't know, surfactants are like the thing in dish soap or shampoo that like has it lather as well as it does, and it basically like strips oils and other things, which is why dish soap works so well to like cut oil and grease. Right. But like the oil in your hair, often if you don't have stick straight hair, you want to keep more of that oil because your hair kind of needs it. But anyway, the nice thing about them is that the way you use the shampoo is you literally just rub it over your whole head, and it's like giving yourself a head massage in the shower. You're just like, oh, that feels so nice. And then you like lather it all in. But so that one, not a big sacrifice to switch, but the conditioner.
Yeah.
It's extremely hard to use a solid conditioner because I have unreasonably long hair.
It's hard to get it all the way down to your roots. And like also you can't rub it against your scalp because you're trying to move it farther down your
right. So it's just so much slower. So what I've been doing, which if you use a solid conditioner and you have better techniques for me, please let me know. But what I've been doing is like rubbing it between my hands to get a little bit on my hands and then rubbing it through and then rub it. But like when you have the liquid stuff in the bottle, you just like, and then you have like a lot of liquid and then you get it through. But when you have this little thing that you're just like rubbing on your hands and rubbing, it takes so long. And I already take a long time to wash my hair. So I'm just like, man,
could you put the conditioner bar in a glass jar with water and just let it sit like that?
I worry that it would go bad if I did that. Like it's not intended to do that.
I mean, how would you put it in water like 30 minutes before you wash your hair? Like you only soaked it for a little bit. You
just the surface that I would, yeah.
And then you wash your hair and then you dried it out again.
Yeah.
Maybe. You're also supposed to be able to like rub it directly on your hair, but the problem with that is then your conditioner bar is full of hair. So
I have two questions for you about this process. One, when I tried a conditioner bar, I ended up like maybe I was pushing too hard on my scalp, but I found that I like had more hair loss because I was I think overstimulating the follicles maybe or something. Do you have that happen? And second, is the reason you're using this to reduce plastic waste? Yeah. So does your co-op have bulk shampoo and conditioner that you can refill in jars?
It's twofold. I don't think they do.
Because my co-op does, and I can like go buy.
I should look. And if they do, I don't know if it would be the stuff I like to use or like if it would be sulfate free or surfactant free is really what I want. But I should look. That's a good suggestion.
Can you hear if I play this?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
They so it's partly to reduce plastic waste, and then the other part of it is so when I travel, it's like so much nicer to travel with like a solid shampoo thing than stupid travel size. Even though I have little tubes that I refill with my own shampoo.
But then you don't even have to put it in that stupid liquid bag.
Exactly. So like even my sister,
of the liquid bag.
Yes.
My sister, when I bought it, I was like, listen, if I like end up hating this, I thought because I like don't trust that it doesn't have surfactants in it, then I like got the like maintain one so that she would possibly use it. And then I liked it enough that I also went and bought like the hydrate one because I use like more hydration-y stuff. But she was like, oh yeah, I'm traveling. Can I like borrow your shampoo bar? And I was like, yeah, go ahead. But then she didn't end up taking it. So, but yes, I should check on that. Cause that is, I don't even use that much like shampoo over the course of a year. I use like 2 bottles of shampoo. I use probably 20 ounces of shampoo and like.
In a year?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you're amazing. I use way more shampoo than that.
And I use probably like 30 to 40 ounces of conditioner. I use more conditioner because I have an unreasonable amount of hair.
Yeah, I have to use more than that because I have like, you can see I just came out of the shower. My hair is just ridiculously straight. And so it gets very oily. So like I actually need like, yes, please take all of the oils out of my hair, please and thank you.
Yeah. So, but even with that, I feel bad every time I throw away like the plastic of a shampoo bottle.
Yeah. But this is why, like, if there was a bulk shampoo that you could buy, then you could just get, like, you could buy some glass, some, like, really big, like ball jars or something, and then get a pump top for it or something.
I would honestly just reuse the ones I have.
Yeah, or just reuse the plastic thing, like easy.
But yeah, that's a good
also
suggestion.
probably
So I'll check
safer
that.
for the shower, so I would
Hey,
probably keep
Caitlin?
using plastic.
Did you post the link to the stream on our Instagram?
No.
Could you post it to our Instagram?
Gram it up. Also, I don't have Instagram, so I'm not going
Do
to get
I
ads for
know-
the shampoo bar.
It's
Oh,
the same login. It's at TNHSW pod, and the password's the same.
Okay, good.
Hopefully, there are no hackers that get into our account.
I'm going to tell everybody your password is Medican is awesome.
It is.
So,
Listen,
That is
we'll
the correct
change the password after this live stream event, right?
to Medican is
we're
awesome
definitely
or from
going to
Medican is awesome.
password after.
Now I just have to figure out how to. Oh, there we go.
Did
Well,
anyone actually like check YouTube to see if it's working?
Yes, I
Okay.
briefly checked it on my phone.
Okay, good, excellent, excellent.
Excellent. So exciting.
All right, so question: what should I work on?
What is your most synthesizery noise for that? Because like that's really the thing I need the most.
I can do all kinds of things because I am hooking this up right now. What you're hearing is my digital piano going to my 9-year-old laptop that has GarageBand on it. It has all kinds of synthesizers.
Yes, awesome.
So yeah, they have a whole list of things because it turns out that's real easy to sample and put on a program for free.
Yeah, because like I'm all about the synthesizer, you know.
Oh man.
Synthesize.
The problem with this situation is that I created the graphic on my laptop and now I have to post on Instagram. But I will do that.
You can do it from your laptop. So what you do is if you go to Google Chrome and you go to the little like triple dots on the side.
Well, I'm just going to put it into my photos bin and then pull it down on my phone.
You just have to go to More Tools and press Developer Tools, and then there's a little button that allows you to like change it so it thinks it's your phone. And then you have to refresh the page. That's how I post on Instagram because I don't really want to.
They don't have like a URL that just is m.instagram, like for the mobile site.
Mm-mm. Yeah, no, Instagram only wants you to be posting from your phone. And so it like you have to trick Instagram into thinking it's your phone.
Oh.
It's dumb.
That is frustrating.
It's dumb.
Thanks for nothing.
Part of
why Instagram is like that.
I don't need any more social media on my phone. In fact, I've deleted everything from my phone. That doesn't
except TikTok.
Yes, except for TikTok. TikTok is the only social media on my phone. And also, I'll just like log into Twitter on my browser on my phone, which then Twitter is always like, do you want the app? And I'm like, no, I can't be trusted with your app.
It's a dangerous app to have. I'm just going to tell you. The scrolling I do is admittedly not always healthy with that app. So
I agree. The doom scrolling. It's not, especially on days like these, it's not helpful.
If there's a word for 2020, it's definitely doom scrolling.
Doom scrolling.
It's kind of, you are just like on Twitter and doom scrolling the year. Like you just keep going down and somehow you think that it's going to get better, but then it just keeps getting worse.
That's exactly right. Like this is so meta. Like 2020 itself is a doom scroll.
A doom scroll on Twitter.
It's just a doom. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Accurate.
Because like I don't think I've seen people be too optimistic about this year all year. Like I remember even around like January, people were like, "Yeah, I'm not feeling great about this year," and then it was like, "Oh, by the way, pandemic."
Well, because we started the year with the impeachment, and then I don't know what happened in February.
Australian bushfires started 2020.
It's wild to me that I went on a cruise this year and I went to a convention. Like that was another lifetime ago.
Wait, when did you go on a cruise?
I went on a cruise at the end of January.
Oh my God.
And I went to C2E2 at the end of February, like right as like all of the Corona stuff started happening in the US. So it was like too early for them to really worry about taking precautions.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
so glad you didn't get stuck on a cruise ship.
No, it was funny because like they asked us when we got on the cruise ship if we had been feeling flu-like symptoms, and they were obviously asking about coronavirus.
Mm-hmm.
But like we're all like, ha ha, no, of course not. And then I did legitimately get sick on the cruise, and not like the norovirus that you like usually get on cruises, like a legitimate like flu. Like I had a fever and I just didn't feel well for several days, and so I was like, are they not gonna let me back in the country? Are they gonna think I have coronavirus?
But that was back when they thought that you couldn't necessarily, they didn't think you couldn't have them simultaneously, but they assumed that if you had the flu that you didn't have coronavirus because they assumed that you weren't exposed to it. So they would have tested you for the flu, you would have tested positive, and they would have let you in. And then, they would have put you on a flight to South Africa and you would have been the one person who infected the whole country or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah, I am like almost 100% positive it was not coronavirus, just because like
you could taste things.
Yeah, like I didn't have any, like I was a little bit congested, but like it was mostly just that I coughed a lot, and I had like a fever and stuff, and it went away after a couple of days, and my parents didn't get sick. So, and they were all sharing the same cabin as me.
Yeah, that sounds like
a tiny bit sick, but
yeah. Do either of you know anybody personally that has gotten it?
Allegedly, my uncle and cousins all tested positive with the antibody test, even though none of them remember having any symptoms.
Oh.
My parents and I know these people. There was a couple that got sick in Europe fairly early on, and so they were stuck there for a little bit. So they got it. Let me think of anyone else that I know personally who's gotten it. I think that's it for who I personally know, but I also don't know that many people, and B, I feel like the people that I do know have been generally making pretty smart decisions about taking care of themselves.
Mm-hmm. Caitlin, what about you?
I do. I know one family where some of the adults and the tiny 1-year-old got COVID. They're all fine now. Yeah. But when I talked to them, they were like, "Yeah, that really sucked, and don't get it." So that's the only person I know for sure who's had it. I have also I know of a person who knows a person who's tested. Right. Same situation as your uncle's. They tested positive for antibodies. They don't remember being sick except last Thanksgiving they were super sick. But in the United States, it would be
very unlikely.
Much more likely that you had asymptomatic infection than that you somehow were infected in
November of last year,
2019.
Yeah.
Yep. I totally agree with that.
I was like, oh, I should retweet this myself and see if I can get any of my Twitter peeps to watch us.
Do it.
But I have a small fraction of your followers. You are far more internet famous than I am.
Twitter terrifies me. I admire both of your interactions on the tweeters because all I can think about is okay, I get paralyzed when I'm on Twitter because I think about me possibly saying something minorly wrong.
Oh, yeah.
And then I would everybody would realize that I just don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely don't in any way represent my profession on Twitter, and I never talk about work. So I have that advantage.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a reason that my Twitter does not have my last name is not referenced anywhere. We don't talk about it on the podcast. It's not on Twitter or anything like that because my last name is unique enough that you can find me pretty dang easily if you Google me.
Yeah, that's my first name.
Yeah, exactly. And so because lawyers are a weird conservative profession, I don't really want any. Not that I'm ashamed of this stuff. I don't have a problem with really talking about it, but I don't want someone's first thing to be she has a podcast.
Look, random lawyer on the street does not need to hear the brilliance of your compositions, especially in regards to Godzilla.
I mean, they should know you're a true artist, but
But Deacon, did you by any chance hear the song that I wrote for a video game I've been obsessed with the past few months? It has a lot of synthesizer in it.
No, I haven't.
Oh man, maybe I should play it for you.
Yes, play it for me. You know I'm in.
I will also say with Twitter, I made a couple kind of minor mistakes very early on in Twitter before it became what it is now.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned a lot from those. And I'm small enough on Twitter, even though I have like 300 followers or whatever I have, like I am small enough on Twitter and I am a white woman that I don't get the same harassment that a lot of people I know do. So that's nice. But like one of my like things to live by in terms of Twitter is that every tweet I try very hard, although sometimes I'm like just replying and typo a lot. I try that for every tweet that like it's something I could stand behind if it got retweeted on its own, even if it's part of a larger thread. And I try really for a lot of clarity. And then I just don't post a lot of like long threads that are like have a really meaningful thing behind them. Most of my Twitter interactions are actually me replying to other people or being part of a community. So which I think is the superior way to use Twitter. But also sometimes I'm accidentally someone's reply guy. Like one time I reply guyed Jenny Nicholson and then I like felt bad about it, but not bad enough to delete it. So
that's totally fine. Was that when we were talking about Percy Jackson, the musical?
It was not. It was, she said something about going to see she made a joke about like The Invisible Man, the movie, and Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison, and then I like did something to be like, but it's The Invisible Man, not Invisible Man. I distinctly remember maybe the joke she was even making was about like The Invisible Man, but like she called it Invisible Man, and I like was making the distinction that like Invisible Man and The Invisible Man are two very different things.
Right.
But it is not the jerkest move I have made on the interwebs. That was definitely having a like 3 email conversation with the digital puzzle room people about the fact that we're in daylight saving time.
I remember hearing about this. Amazing.
That was awesome.
But between like standard time and daylight time?
It was truly like the final email I sent did not need to be sent. It was just me being a jerk. But what I should have done instead is in the first email I sent, been like, hey, can you clarify for me? And like, just a heads up for you in the future, maybe you could just say CT and then we wouldn't have this issue. But yeah. If you're watching this now, just know that I'm a pedant when it comes to daylight saving time versus standard time.
Yeah. That does not surprise me. I know Ryan is as well. So
we also like I live in one of the only states where like there is a significant justification for daylight saving time. So it really improves summer.
When they reported the time, did they say standard time or something?
Yeah, they twice in the email that was like, here's all the things you need to know. It said the time and it emphasized CST.
Oh, and I was like, you're like, it's CST.
Well, normally I would not even think about it. I was like, I know that they're a local puzzle room, so they're probably in the same time as me. But because they have this digital puzzle room, people from anywhere can sign up. And then like 2 hours before we were supposed to get on, I panicked and was like, oh, what if it actually is ST? So I like emailed them to be like, hey, I know this is super weird, but can you clarify like this is the time it is right now in CDT. Like, is this ST or DT? And they wrote back and was like, yeah, it's CST. Like right now it's time it actually is in CDT, CST. And I was like, no.
Caitlin, I might troll you with this now that you've given me this information. Like, this is amazing. Do
we want to remain friends? No, I'm kidding.
I can't even remember like the most jerky thing I've done on the internet. Like, I'm sure I've done jerky things.
Yeah, I'm not.
I'm sure there's someone out there who's like, psh, that's not the worst thing you ever did. It's like some terrible thing I did that I don't remember, like some microaggression I wasn't aware of or whatever. Yep. But
agreed. I'm sure. All right, you ready for my amazing song?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, let me. Can you hear that? Okay. I'm gonna go get some brownies while this is playing.
That's an amazing play out.
Researcher, I've come from the capital here to meet the town's leader, a man I've heard has lived quite old. I'm a surgeon, no one better with a blade. There have been deaths in town and they think I'm to blame. I woke up in a grave, I knew my name in the impossible way in which my hands can save. But I lie and I steal, I'm not sure what is real. I know I'm the saint, not like that other girl. We're here in this town, no more trains coming down. We're all on our own to protect ourselves because something is coming, something is wrong. Is that screaming from the cemetery? Is it a song?
Don't judge me for my pile of brownies.
I love it.
Don't worry, there's more synthesizer coming.
I'm like so sold by this song.
I've got 12 short days in which to save this town, while a deadly pathogen threatens to bring it all down. The logical.
Definitely a power ballad.
It doesn't matter what I do, it seems at every turn the plague is waiting for me, the soldiers making it burn. The logical. Nothing much to do, we're running out of time. I set up quarantine, try to keep folks inside. Inside this chest at my father's behest was the key to my inheritance. Was there really a cure? How can I be sure that my bloody rodent doesn't just bleed out more? I can go out with my hands, but they don't understand that I would never spread the plague across these lands. I will find my sister, I'll be there to stop her, and I'll work a miracle.
I need something to drink.
Together.
What was I thinking?
I've got 12 short days in which to save this town, while a deadly pathogen threatens to bring it all down. The logical.
I feel like I need a lighter.
It doesn't matter what I do, it seems at every turn the plague is waiting for me, the soldiers making it burn. The logical.
Oh yeah.
It's falling apart. It hurts me to watch. It pulls at my heart. It looks as though not everything can be saved. A sacrifice will have to be made. One of us will choose the fate of this town. Will the polyhedron come crumbling down? Will the shells fall on all the buildings around? Will we all be saved by the blood of my bound? I've got 12 short days in which to save this town, while the deadly pathogen tried to bring it all down. The logical. pathological. A cathedral is waiting, step in and rejoice, and the ending is right if it is a free choice. It's pathological. It's pathological. I'm pathological. Pathological.
This music break brought to you by my Bandcamp page, I guess.
I was just going to say, have you, two questions. Yeah. One, have you shared this song with the fandom in any way?
What did they, how was it received?
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah?
Yeah, I made a music video for it on YouTube.
Amazing.
Ooh.
That was great.
And second, are you going to try to sell Medican on this game? Because I feel like she might like it, maybe?
You might like it. So there's two Pathologic games. I've played both of them. I think I like the first one better. Slightly controversial opinion. So basically, like, the general premise of the game is that you, at least in the first game, you are one of 3 different healers in a town that has come down with a deadly plague. And so you have 12 days, and each day, like, you have specific goals you have to try to accomplish. It has the reputation of being very difficult. It is not actually that difficult once you figure it out. I think they're pretty easy, actually. Like, even tasks that seem really insurmountable at the beginning, if you kind of like poke around, you'll realize that like the game has set up ways for you to complete them in a pretty straightforward way. But what's really interesting about the game is that in it, each of the 3 healers has a completely different story in the town. And like, each of their stories is basically a complete game, with maybe the exception of the last one because her development was rushed. So like half of her story is basically complete. But like the amount of lore in this game is just truly incredible, especially for something that's not based on an existing property. Because like, you know that something in like The Witcher has really deep lore, but it's also based on an existing universe.
Right.
It has this whole, like, there's this whole indigenous people that have this like complicated religion around bowls, and like one of the characters is part of the kin, and so like his journey involves like becoming their leader and like figuring out the truth behind his father's murder while he's trying to stop the plague in the city. And then one of them is like a big city researcher who's come to the town because like his research lab, which is focused on figuring out a solution to death, is about to be shut down by the powers that be. And so like he's heard that there's this guy in town who's lived a really long time, and he hopes that he has a key to his research. But like he arrives in town and goes to talk to his brother and find out that he had died like literally the day before. And so like he kind of becomes embroiled there. And then the last character, she is magic and she can heal people with her magic healing hands, but also like she's kind of the embodiment of the plague. It's very complicated.
Okay.
And it's basically like you run around and you fight people and you buy food and then you read a ton of dialogue that's written like a Russian novel, and it's a fantastic game.
Okay, like, that sounds great.
The way that like what really sets it out in my mind is just like the amount of thought that goes into the storytelling, because like each character has an ending they can present as a way to solve the plague. And like for no other video game I think I've played have I gotten to the end and felt like so conflicted about what to choose, because each character's ending feels right for that character, but then it's like, what is actually right for the town? And the honest truth is that like all of the solutions are imperfect, and so it's just about which one can you live with the most. It's really interesting because I feel like in most video games I've played, like there's usually like a true good ending that you can get if you're like a really good person, but in here it doesn't matter how good you are, you're still gonna get a crappy ending.
Ooh, this sounds very interesting. Okay.
Yeah, and the first game goes on sale for like $2 pretty regularly on Steam, so it's worth like just.
It's called Pathologic, right?
Yeah, it's called Pathologic, and it's one of those games that I feel like everyone should play, but not everyone should finish. Like if you get a few hours into the game and you're just like, yeah, this is not for me, then you're probably not going to enjoy it. But like I started the game and I was like, this is great. You run around a town, you like find free stuff in dumpsters and trade them with children for bullets. It's so weird. I love it. So like, you know, you get into the game, you're like, all right, this is good. Or you're like, no, you're like my brother. He was like, not for me. This is too boring.
Okay. I like all these caveats too, but yeah.
I was going to say, like, as listeners who are watching this in recording, as you know, Nicole really cares about the quality of the story, or like the fact that there is a story that has some kind of plot progressing. If you haven't figured this out, I feel like you have not listened to any of our Lost in Space episodes. So it's not shocking at all to me that well-developed story in this game matters to you.
No, if they have not figured it out, it's probably because they listened to our Jurassic World episode where I was like, I don't care, I'm just here for the dinosaurs.
That's true.
Nicole, what are you drinking your drink out of?
An adult version of a sippy cup, because I don't want to spill on my couch or my digital piano.
Oh, sure. That's the excuse.
Adult.
Nicole recently revealed to us that she has the most amazing novelty cup that you can't really drink out of that I've ever seen.
Yeah, and I was really hoping to see it like be resurrected today.
Wash it out and use it, but I would have to move my laptop over to my table because I really do not want to spill water on my digital piano.
Fair.
Which is one of the most expensive things I own. So
yes.
Okay. So, well, you know what? Okay, maybe someday you could make slushies and have slushy in them. I feel like
microwave safe. You can eat them with soup.
I do love the soup idea still, especially if it's like gazpacho or something.
I can't believe that it's microwave safe.
Yeah, I think it's because like the movable parts are all plastic. It's like a little plastic peg through a plastic hole, and
yeah, but I mean, not all plastic stuff is microwave safe because it can melt, right?
Yep, right. But apparently, it's microwave safe.
You have high grade plastic.
I would not trust it, man.
No,
you don't want to ruin the most perfect. Oh, you've dishwashed it. I was gonna say you don't want to ruin the most perfect novelty mug you can't drink out of all time.
No, that's why I've been really careful with it.
So we promised we would work on a song. What do you have in your arsenal? What might you be working on today? What do you want to? Is it time for another theme song or?
Yeah, so I kind of have as we discussed yesterday on our Ruth Bader Ginsburg has died and we're all spiraling Google Hangout yesterday. I have 3 different projects. I have a song about Fast and Furious movies that I have written pretty much all of the lyrics to, but I've not finished the music for. And I'm not doing anything that I have to record lyrics for because that is boring. You do not want to watch that. So I have that. I have my Lady Scientist concept album that is a very ambitious thing that I would love to do someday, but I don't have enough time to work on this full time, unfortunately.
Did I send either of you a Lady Scientist postcard like way back in pre-COVID times?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Maybe.
I was thinking maybe that could be inspiration for your Lady Scientist concept.
Yeah.
Ooh. I could also send you a Lady Scientist postcard. I have some.
Oh, so that one I have a bunch of the lyrics written. They're in a notebook somewhere. Okay. I saw them the other day, but I do not remember exactly where they are, so I would have to find that notebook first because I'm at a point in the writing the music where I need to remember what the lyrics are. So that's option number 2. And then option number 3 is we start something from scratch. I have kind of an idea for something in my brainium, but I don't really have a lot of lyrics. And my thought is that we could use that as like our trailer for the podcast. You can post trailers. So it's like a song about like what this podcast is and why it exists.
Okay.
So I think all are pretty good ideas. I can check too. Let's see what other. Okay, now I'm realizing I ate too many brownies, but that's okay.
There's no such thing. What are you talking about?
The drinking the milk helped. Okay, let's see what else do I have in. I do have the Christmas song that I was going to try to write about Godzilla wishes you a Merry Christmas.
Oh, based on the tweet that I sent you from Japan with the Godzilla Christmas tree?
Yes. Which I wanted to write, but...
Can I has that?
What?
Can I has that song?
Well...
It's not ready?
I mean, it's not done. I was having trouble with the lyrics, too, because, like, Godzilla wishes you a Merry Christmas. You can't just, like, say that all the whole song.
So I have a question about the Fast and the Furious song.
Yeah.
Do you auto-tune car noises? Because I feel like that would be an amazing addition to that song.
I'm not going to do that because that sounds difficult.
You could pick up some recordings from the movie and then auto-tune, like, you know, cars revving in different pitches.
Let's see, what else do I have? I have a ton of projects, but I don't have a lot that's like at least tangentially related to this. Yeah, I think that's the only other thing that I can make even an argument that would be related to this podcast. I have just.
Does it have to be related to the podcast, or can it just be related to your musical genius?
It could, yeah. I could work on my song about Dota that I've been working on forever since I lived back at home, and my brother played the game all the time, and it drove me crazy, and so I decided to make a song making fun of it that he was not too appreciative of.
This sounds like an ultimate sibling revenge.
I mean, I can play what I have so far. There's a lot of synthesizer in Deacon.
You know, I'm sold. Synthesizer.
Yeah.
Can I make car noises into a synthesizer and then add that?
Yeah.
We just want to know what we can give you to sample in your musical genius, because I personally don't have enough creativity to actually contribute.
That's exactly how I feel, but I can brainstorm lots of great ideas.
I don't even know how to make car noises, quite honestly, but I can pretend.
No, we could just like listen to the movie and then take recording samples of the car things. Yes. Oh, if you do Tokyo Drift, you could get some drifting noises too. Tires skidding.
All right.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Let's see. Let's see if I can find my lyrics for this one.
Which one is this one?
This is the Dota song. Oh, I might have it on this computer, actually.
So Nicole's also in a command center, is what we're learning right now.
I have 2 laptops open right now, but one is 9 years old, so don't get too jealous.
It's a Dota command center.
I mean, it's 9 years old, but it still works. So
yeah. Damn.
Oh no! GarageBand got mad at me because I had because it's a 9-year-old laptop, and sometimes when there are too many noises at one time, it freaks out. There we go. You can do a GarageBand.
I'm sold.
started from the beginning with the words because I think this is actually, ironically, I actually think that this is one of the best things that is like in process right now in my head.
I mean, Caitlin and I just had a dance party, so
Yeah.
we were in the club.
The nerd club.
It's basically like do you know what League of Legends is?
Yes, but not, I've never played League of Legends.
Yeah, so it's basically like a 5-player versus 5-player game. There are different characters that you can play, and it's basically sort of like Capture the Flag, only more complicated. And it takes like a ton of man hours just become like okay at it. And I tried to learn at one point because my brother like literally played it all the time. And then I was like, or I could sink 50 hours into an RPG and finish a game that told me a nice story. Yeah. So I'm going to do that instead.
Yeah. How old is Dota? Is this like Skyrim era?
It's, I don't remember when it came out. This is technically like Dota 2 is the one that's popular-ish. It's actually made by, I think it's made by Valve. Which runs Steam. So, but basically, like the two factions are called Radiant and Dire, and one side has like happy plants and stuff, and the other just looks like a volcano exploded, and it's very sad.
I'm guessing that one is Dire, and Radiant is the planty one. Okay.
Yeah. All right. I'll try to sing this. This is not the easiest. I don't know why I decide to write tunes that aren't easy to sing, but that's what my brain decides. Every time the morning breaks upon the lands of radiant and dire, I know what fate awaits, what events will here and now transpire. Across the river lies my destiny, a land of foes, hated enemies. In other lives they were my friends, but now they will fall before my power. We the heroes, Chen and Meepo, me and Tide Hunter and Rubik too. We will fight till we win the battle, or our defenses fail and they break through. I beat my fairy wings, follow my creeps into the fray, ready for anything that could possibly come my way. Letting my creeps sacrifice themselves, but swooping in for the kills myself. Taking all of the gold, don't judge me. Creeps can't spend it anyway. Hold the mid lane, keep them at bay. Save some gold and buy the boots of speed. Get the last blows, eat some tangos. Watch my health when Kunkka makes me bleed. Now to mid game, game to right lane. Team up with Chen to take Earth Shaker down. Push back on mid, start some conflicts. Find the neutrals, make my magic strong. Oh no!
Oh no, was it all the noises again and it crashed?
Yep, just a second.
Do you know, this, having you sing reminds me that we knew each other for 10 years before I knew you could sing, and it was only because of this podcast that I found out.
I sing in front of people usually, okay?
You have such a nice voice, and
I'm so
having grown up around theater people, and particularly musical theater people, normally people don't hide the fact that they have a nice voice, so it was very surprising to me.
I get self-conscious about singing in front of people.
Well,
I'm super impressed. I'm impressed also because whenever my family sings, it sounds like a funeral march. Especially my mom, I think she might be tone deaf. Like when we go to like weddings, anything that happens at a church and she's singing along, it's just random notes.
Let's see if I can get this to play the chorus this time. The chorus is so good. on them winning. 19 just gives me so much meaning. Death is our life. Today's life together as a squad. We push the towers in right lane. Place observer wars. And now it crashed again. We're gonna
No.
Okay, so apart from your poor computer needing to have better processing, I guess, what about this needs to be worked on? Because it sounds very good to me.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay, I cannot write short music. It's a problem actually. Like most songs are supposed to be like 2 to 3 minutes long, and my average song is probably 5.5.
Well, two things. One, yes, and actually like 2 minutes I think is the magic number if you want to like succeed on Spotify and also rule the TikTok world. But since you're now going to have a career in TikTok, we've decided.
Yeah.
But also, I'm completely unsurprised that you have trouble making short songs since you listen to a ton of classical music, which has some pieces that are like 45 minutes long in performance.
Also, can I point out you really like world building, and it sounds like you're world building in your song.
Part of the problem too is that part of the way that you keep songs short is by doing like verse, chorus, then you might have like interlude and then chorus. And I like doing a little bit more complicated structures than that usually.
Again, spends too much time listening to classical music.
Yeah, so like this song has like chorus, bridge, chorus, or not chorus, bridge, verse, bridge, chorus, a different bridge, verse, chorus. So like that's part of the reason it's longer.
Also, were you going to drop some knowledge on me about the longest classical music?
The longest piece that is regularly played in concert halls is it's a piece by Mahler.
It's not a Wagner piece.
I totally was going to guess it was a Wagner piece.
It's not Wagner, it's Mahler. And it's, I think, an hour and almost 20 minutes, hour and 15 minutes, something like that.
Nice.
The Milwaukee Symphony Orchestra played it a couple times when I lived there, and I was like, yeah, I can't sit through that. One of the hard parts about classical music is like I do like going to see performances, but like once you get past the 20-30 minute mark, I do kind of start to like drift off. So it depends on the piece. Like some like I would say, for example, Brahms's New World Symphony has so many themes that are so well connected that it like I think it pretty well keeps your attention even though it's like 40-50 minutes long. But a lot of pieces, especially the ones where they're like movement end, and like there aren't any like interconnected themes between them, which is most classical music because it's actually a relatively recent invention in classical music. Then it's a little bit harder unless like all of the movements are amazing, which sometimes they are.
Have you considered connecting all of your songs together this way?
I'm not creating a musical universe for all of my songs. No.
You could for your
concept of
well, you could for your concept album, for example.
It's true. That would be a good one to work on. Let me see if I can find the lyrics because I remember some of them, but I don't remember all of them. And like I said, I know I was working on them. Is it in this notebook?
Either you have a very powerful mic setup or your apartment has very good acoustics.
My apartment has pretty good acoustics.
Because even when you're off screen, we can hear you very well.
Yeah, extremely well.
I'm like right behind my laptop right now. So that's
okay.
Okay, well, still, I'm impressed. I'm very impressed.
Let's see.
Yeah, I'm just like impressed by all of this. One, I definitely can't write songs. Like, I mean, I could like maybe make some like weird synthesizer noises and like mash them together and hope it sounds like a song, but it would not be amazing. And then second, I definitely cannot live sing like this. That is amazing. So there's a reason I played instruments and was not a singer.
Oh, I thought you were going to say there's a reason my family comes to sing around your Christmas tree every year.
Oh, yeah. Well, the
But
thing
it's
is
really because you bribe us with Danish pudding treats.
Yes. Okay. Danish cultural experiences. I will say my extended family, there are some talented singers that Caitlin knows of. So
Yes, true. We still talk about that. I now can't remember what it is, but whatever that like almond pudding tradition is.
Rieselaman. Yeah. It's
We're like,
so
remember
good.
that time that we went and did this?
It is so good, and I like dream of it. I think it would be a really good summer dessert because it's chilled.
Yeah.
So
but
maybe
it is almond, and I feel like almond flavoring is kind of a warm flavor, if that makes sense. So maybe that's why it's winter.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean,
but you should make some for the summer. I agree.
Yeah, and then have like fresh berries in it, maybe overweight berries.
Yes. Yeah, it would be really good with like a raspberry.
My mom usually makes a raspberry sauce for you all when you come over, but like I could just do fresh berries.
Yeah, exactly.
As long as they're fat berries.
Huh?
As long as they're fat,
Yeah, it's like very chunky berries.
We don't want any of this.
It would have been so much better if it was chunky berry.
Chunky berry sounds like the name of a whole yogurt shop.
It sounds amazing. Like, would you like some of my chunky berries?
I'm gonna call it Chonky Berry.
Is that gonna be your froyo place? Is Chunky Berry?
Chunky Berry. It's just like it sounds so inviting. It sounds cozy. It's like a cozy type of froyo.
Let me invite Space Nicole to our stream. We were so earlier in the stream, Madikin told a story about how there's like a local dairy that she was calling to see about delivery because they have a delivery program. But Google Voice, because she screens her calls like a reasonable human. Google Voice translated the name of this dairy into overweight berry.
Like a berry, like, raspberry.
Which at this point in the feed, we now are talking about the idea of chunky berry and what our business would be if the name of the business was Chunky Berry.
Frozen yogurt.
I think it's like a very cozy frozen yogurt, though. Like, I feel like everything in the Chunky Berry shop also needs to be chunky itself. Like, you need overstuffed couches, humongous, like, those huge beanbag chairs that are like 10 feet wide. Oh, that would be amazing.
A giant ottoman to sit on instead of a chair. And
just like all giant poofs.
Yeah.
Rugs.
But I don't know if any of you have been following. So Lindsay Ellis, YouTuber and author, has been keeping a thread because her books are set in like 2010, I think, or even before then. So she's been keeping a list of
2008.
Yeah, a list of words that she researched and found out she could not use because they're too new. And one of them is chunky, which is like, it feels like chunky has been around for forever now. But apparently it's not that old.
That has been around forever.
That would be so hard because I feel like unless you are a linguist, it's hard to know when things like enter the language, right?
So what she explains in the thread at some point, her methodology, but basically she's using Google Trends and it has like a minimum threshold it has to be above before she will like consider it be in like general usage. So there's been a couple words that she's had in the thread that people have been like, hey, I definitely was using that in like whatever 2005 or whatever. But then she'll be like, yeah, it was more popular in specific subcultures, but I need it to be popular enough across cultures.
Wow. Well, I'm happy. I'm happy Chunky exists now.
But I will send you guys a link to that, and maybe I'll put a link in the doobly-doo after this goes the recording goes up, because it is an extremely entertaining thread, and you will find yourself reading it and being like, what?
I agree.
And then sometimes you're like, oh yeah, that's new.
Yeah, I definitely want to see this. I think that sounds really interesting.
It is very interesting. I know that like How Do You Do, Fellow Kids is on there.
I do just like love memes, and now I'm like loving memeception. So, you know, I think maybe you've seen this thread about like the episode of Star Trek that described communicating with like the equivalent of memes. It's called Darmok, I think, right?
It is a really weird episode.
It is and I actually just recently watched it. It's from TNG, and because I've been working my way through it because I'm in quarantine and don't have anything better to do than watch this. Anyway, so now I've been seeing memes of using like, you know, a screenshot from that episode, but it's describing a current meme. So like, you know, Leonardo DiCaprio holding a glass, smiling slightly or something.
Yes.
And I enjoy this double meme. I think it's excellent.
Yeah,
So
I have definitely also texted like the description of a meme.gif as just plain text to people because I know that they know what I'm talking about when I say that, and I don't have to like actually go find the image file. You know, this is fine.gif, and they're all thinking of the little dog with the coffee mug and fire, and it's weird because that's like a strange function of language when you think about it.
Hey, actually, we have a viewer.
Hey!
yay!
Welcome, viewer.
Hooray! Welcome, viewer.
Yay.
How do you know?
I saw
Nicole, I was wondering, okay, so we were discussing earlier, if there was a word for 2020, it is doom scrolling, like, right? So what do you think, what GIF or meme would be 2020? Is it this is fine.gif?
It might be this is fine.gif.
I also
if
think
it's not that, it is that screenshot from the John Mulaney bit where he's like, you know those days where you just think this might as well happen. That's also how I feel about 2020.
I would also like to nominate the GIF from Community where Abed like leaves and comes back with the pizza and everything is like burning.
It's not Abed, it's Troy. Don't get them.
Was it Troy?
So I've never actually watched Community, and I recently saw like the whole clip that bit comes from, and it is hilarious how fast everything goes from like a normal we're hanging out at the apartment to the fire and everything that he walks out on.
Have you seen the whole episode?
No.
It's even funnier in the context of the episode. The episode is like legitimately one of the best episodes of Community. It was like nominated for a Hugo Award.
It was? Oh.
Yeah. And so basically the concept is like this group is hanging out at an apartment and the pizza comes and they have to decide who is going to pick up the pizza. And so they decide to roll a die. And Jeff, who's kind of the main character, is like, okay, I'm going to count from me the die roll and that person will go pick up the pizza. And Abed, who is really into like memes and meta narratives, is like, just so you know, Jeff, you are now creating 6 different timelines. And Jeff is like, okay, whatever. And so it goes through each of the timelines and like the way that things change based on like who's in the apartment and who isn't. And they're all fairly normal, though it's really interesting to see what happens. And then like you get to the darkest timeline and it's just like things just go off the rails. And it's even funnier because like, for example, the gun that goes off had already been revealed in an earlier timeline. But like you don't think about it until it like accidentally goes off and shoots Pierce. It's
gun, if you will.
Yes, exactly. So it's like it's an incredibly well-written episode. And then the darkest timeline becomes like a long-running joke on the show where occasionally they'll show flashes to the timeline. And like at the very end of the episode, Abed, who even in the darkest timeline is really into like, again, memes and meta narratives and stuff. It's like, I think we should just embrace it. Like clearly this is the darkest timeline. So I think we all need to grow goatees. And so like after that, when they show flashbacks to the darkest timeline, like he and Troy both have goatees.
Okay. Really amazing. Well, the meta meme of this like Star Trek episode actually referenced that meme, and that one I sent to a bunch of people. And so like the caption of that particular one is Troy Barnes returning with pizzas, his face fallen. It's so good. So I just like, well, I'll send that to all of you randomly. It'll be great.
Although apparently, because I never remember whose character is which, for me it would just be community pizza gif.
Oh, it's such a good show, though.
Have you ever tried to search for a meme that you've only ever like seen and you have no idea what it's from or who
Yes.
this character is? There's the one of, and I'm going to forget because I've looked it up before and I never remember it, but like the guy with the string pinboard map or whatnot.
Yeah.
Like
yes.
that's from something. And I always, if I'm trying to find that image, I'm searching like stringboard conspiracy guy.
Isn't it from It's Always Sunny? I think it's.
I think I recently found that out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
I'm pretty sure that I knew that because I have not seen It's Always Sunny, but I know that the actor is in there.
that's exactly my, like, I've seen a couple episodes because I lived with somebody for a while, that watched that, but yeah. Anyway, yes, I like a string conspiracy guy, though. That's a great way to search for that. Yeah.
I keep accidentally pressing my keyboard, and since it's currently on organ, if you hear random organ noises, that's what.
Ooh, excellent.
It's good that you've joined us, Space Nicole, because I think Nicole was finding the notes about her lyrics for her Lady Scientist's concept album.
Yeah, concept. It sounds highbrow, more like lofty idea that will probably never come to fruition because it would require a great deal of work, as I've already found on the first song that I'm writing.
Okay, but if your concept album is really like a 1 hour and 30-minute continuous piece that describes several lady scientists, it would be amazing.
I did find my lyrics, though, along with a whole bunch of other lyrics. I found the lyrics from our revised theme songs.
Oh, darn, that doesn't actually allow you to link it. Never mind.
Oh, no.
I thought it would be clickable, which is
You
just
can type
not
that really fast. Have fun.
not good thinking. What?
You can put it in the chat box.
Yeah, that's what I think I'm going to do.
That was funny.
Oh, hey, look, there's comments.
Yes.
Oh, yay. I'm so happy our commenter.
One of our long-term commenters who I recognize, but only by @Blooper Boy, which is their handle on Twitter, and I'm sure it's not their real name. But way back in the Flash days, there was a point at which they would send like a new Flash GIF every day to like encourage me so that I didn't get too down about having to watch the Flash. And some of them were extremely good GIFs.
They were. I was like genuinely impressed.
So do you not have like a Flash GIF repository that you could just like use
We
randomly?
made one for sure. I don't think we did, but we should have made one.
I feel like you should make Flash Darmok references now too. Like ultimate inception of everything we've been talking about.
We have not really talked about like having this as part of the stream, but now that we have a viewer and a long-term viewer of ours, one of the things Nicole and I have been talking about, Nicole Prime, is that we are almost done with Lost in Space. So like, what are we going to watch after Lost in Space? So I was thinking.
So there is a second season of Lost in Space.
No, we're done.
I mean, better.
So have we actually watched, or have you guys actually watched for your thing anything that Caitlin actually likes? Because I feel like most of the time
She
when
likes
I've listened in or when I've come on as a guest, Caitlin's like, I hated this, but let's talk about it.
The problem is, so I actually like Lost in Space have problems, but my big problem with Lost in Space is actually that like Nicole really hates it. And a thing that I have now learned is that like when I hate a thing, Nicole can like at least make a joke out of it. Nicole hates a thing, it like sucks all the creativity out of our podcast because I'm not like creative enough to make up for that. So I was thinking we would probably just put a poll up and have people vote on if we should watch the second season of The Flash or the first season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
We could do another live.
This was fun. The first season is weird though because it's very Monster of the Week until halfway through the season when the Soldier movie dropped. And
when
like,
the events
of we've been waiting for the plot to arrive.
Yeah,
now
we saw
that you've seen that movie. let's actually do a story.
What other movies are on your like list of upcoming things to review?
We are definitely going to do Ad Astra at some point because I need to talk about Moon Pirates.
Watch that.
What other movies? We're going to do Big Hero 6 probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because that would be a movie that Caitlin wouldn't hate.
No.
I
didn't think it should have won the best animated feature that year. I thought there were other better animated features.
I don't know what it was up against, but sure.
I think it was up against a Miyazaki film that's a little bit controversial because it's about the guy who designed the Zero airplane, but is extremely good. So I think that was like my heart and soul, but also potentially there was a How to Train Your Dragon movie, and I also think those are really good.
Yeah.
But I think Big Hero 6 is an extremely solid movie made for children.
Blooper Boy, yes, I have heard of Eureka, and I think it's great, but I don't think it's on Netflix anymore.
Yeah, but if I can get it from my library is doing curbside pickup now. So.
Eureka is also one show that has bonkers science, and it is like, it has bonkers science. The science doesn't try, but it is a lot more fun than most of the shows we have watched.
Another one,
Flash for sure.
Another one that I assume has bonkers science based on how people talk about it is Fringe.
Yes, I actually.
But I've literally never seen it.
I loved Fringe. It was very good.
Yes, The Wind Rises is the Miyazaki movie I was thinking of. Do you remember if that was the same year that Big Hero 6 won? Sorry, I'm looking at her. Oh, here, I should show that comment.
Ooh, wow, look at that.
Fancy.
This is amazing.
So fancy.
Caitlin, maybe you should link another URL in there too. Just like.
Also, the URLs don't work in the comments either. So, and here's the Eureka comment that we were talking about.
Yeah, this is very cool. This is neat. Yeah.
I'm the power. It's gone to my head.
Fringe does have weird science. Fringe has very weird science, and like would be a good one because like they do have a lot of tropes, but I feel like they use them to say something a little bit new. And each episode like does have sort of, there's a continuing over science, and then they solve like sort of, crime/mysteries with other things. So it's definitely like all over the place, and it would be fun, I think, for you.
I'd have to check it because like the thing that was good about The Flash, despite the fact that Caitlin hated it, is that like every episode there was something new.
Yeah.
And so, like and they didn't even repeat that much, which is something that we've learned when coming, like was actually a benefit we did not fully realize that The Flash had coming into.
Absolutely.
Because Lost in Space often kind of repeats the same things and doesn't have the variety. Like The Flash would be like acoustic villain one episode, and the next episode would be like man who teleports. I
think especially the first season, they do have a sort of monster of the week with different science sort of things, but I don't totally remember because it's been a long time since I watched it.
Yeah. We have also perennially talked about at some point talking about some of the many CSI style like forensic evidence shows, but it's also like I don't know how much I want to get into how like sad it makes me that like we all saw these shows and thought that this science worked, and like much of it doesn't really, but has been used to convict people. Yeah. So
absolutely.
That could be good.
A lot of it is like absolutely pseudoscience.
Could you do random episodes of the X-Files? They also have weird science.
Yeah, maybe.
I'd have to check how much science they have, because a lot of the X-Files is like also aliens.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, right. Well, you would not be able to watch it like through. It would be like random episodes.
Yeah. In typical me fashion, I am just now watching the second season of Stranger Things, and my sister and I have been talking about how like various sciencey type people we know, and she knows someone who used to do research in one of those like isolation tank settings. So I was like, oh yeah, maybe. Would you think she'd be willing to talk to us? But then like, what would we do? Talk about Stranger Things where there's almost no science involved?
The isolation tank. I mean, I guess we could talk about like the theory of alternate universes or something.
Yeah. Or like, was it DARPA research or whatever from the
I'm pretty sure in Fringe they have a tank like that. If you Fringe.
Oh,
Yeah.
Ooh, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
So
you could
maybe-
definitely talk about it if you do Fringe.
Yeah.
I would definitely while I'm listening to your podcast, rewatch Fringe also. I remember I have no idea how well it's aged, but
I don't know. I've only probably watched like maybe 6 or 7 episodes, so I can't. I've seen probably more than Caitlin, but not a significant.
More than my exactly 0 episodes.
Yeah. More than your exactly 0 episodes.
Yeah. One of the issues, and I think it's okay for this in terms of the podcast, but one of the issues around visual media is it's a thing that I'm a lot more critical of than maybe the books I read. And so I am going to generally be more bothered by something that has, I don't know. I think Nicole is more willing to be like, yeah, that was bonkers and it had terrible whatever, but at least it was fun bonkers.
Yes.
So,
what we've learned, ironically, is Caitlin and I don't have very overlapping interests.
well, no, I think more accurately,
we don't like any of the same media.
More accurately, our trash pockets are the
very
Venn diagram of our trash pockets is like that.
It's
They overlap this
Okay,
much.
so can you both describe your trash pocket in a few sentences for all of us?
Also, that's a great term, and I'm going to steal it for the
Yeah.
We got that from Sweeney, aka the third Nicole we've had on the show. So my trash pocket will often have a lot more books in it, and specifically my trash pocket for bad romance, not bad romance in that it's harmful toxic relationships, but just
bonkers,
pulpy.
Her ex-husband appears out of her abusive ex-husband appears out of nowhere, but then she finds out that he's actually the twin brother of her abusive ex-husband, who's assumed his identity. I don't say that I liked that, but I thought it was kind of I didn't regret reading it.
Yes, we have a second viewer. Welcome, anonymous viewer.
I think
yes.
Yeah, so that is very true, and it is very funny because Caitlin and I and Space Nicole were actually all part of a romance book club for a while, and it's
amazing.
It's funny because I had not read a lot of romance going into the romance book club, and I definitely realized as we went along that I had stereotypes about the romance genre that were unfair. But at the same time, the further we got down into it was this is not my genre.
Well, and admittedly, we read some great books and some less great books that you recommended, but Nicole was the most likely to accidentally choose a book that was not actually a romance.
This happened twice. They both ended up being great books, but they were not romances.
Yeah.
So Nicole, what's your trash pocket? I'm very curious.
Wait, but Caitlin, before I continue, I did recommend the book that stopped me from recommending, period, which was Wildest Dreams, which was one of the worst.
That was so tropey, and not in a good way.
Oh no.
I will say one of the 3 things that we've identified where our trash pockets overlap is that first season of Sanditon for that the BBC made.
Yes.
It's funny because sometimes I'll see people tweeting trying to get there to be a second season, and I'm like, why would you want a second season? It was not worthy of a second season. As we watched it each week, we were like, we're never going to watch this again. It's so bad.
Because they set it up, and it's very clear that they have there's a love triangle, and they have one dude that they want her to end up with, but he was the dude that Caitlin and I are like, no, go for the hot foreman. He thinks you're smart. He thinks it's hot that you're smart. He's really hot, and he's a hard worker. Go for the hot project foreman. Don't go for the rich, snooty guy who treats you like...
You froze.
Space Nicole died.
But yeah, basically the first season ends where clearly the chosen love interest, but he's definitely trash, is not going to be with the main character. And so Nicole and I are both very satisfied because we're like, yeah, she should just marry the hot foreman.
Yeah.
Foreman, team hot foreman all the way.
Yeah.
So Madika, my trash pockets are I like things that are a lot
Amazing transition. That was perfect.
sillier and campier than Caitlin does.
Okay.
So, like, I'm willing to
Yes.
forgive a certain amount of like bad plotting if it's just like kind of over the top ridiculous, and particularly if it's self-aware over the top ridiculous. Like, I enjoyed Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, aka Jurassic World Dinosaur Volcano Island.
Yes.
Because like the opening scene of this movie is like them trying to like excavate some wreckage out of the bottom of the dinosaur volcano island big lake thing. And the whole time I'm like, you know that there is a giant dinosaur that lives in that lake and it's gonna eat you. And so like they kept going and they kept going, and then finally there was like a guy hanging down from a helicopter and they're trying to pull him up, and the dinosaur just comes out of the water and eats him.
Amazing. Yes.
Falls back down, and I was like, this movie is going to be exactly what I think it is. And then I was on board. Like everything else that was stupid and ridiculous, like the little girl being a clone, on board. Like dinosaurs running through the dinosaur exhibit in the creepy haunted house, on board. Like it was incredible. But Caitlin was like, this is just a bad story. And I don't disagree.
And it was messy, and it just went all over the place. And
I don't disagree.
But my expectations were like a story that would somewhat hold together, and your expectations were, are there dinosaurs?
Dinosaur Island. It had a dinosaur and a bunch of dinosaurs and a volcano island. That's all that I needed.
And I think what we learned from our episode was that the volcano eruption was surprisingly accurate. So
Surprisingly accurate, yeah.
Oh, okay. So there was some accurate science and then
Aside from the
inaccurate
fact
science.
that we could predict like to the hour when the volcano was going to explode.
This is amazing. I'm so into this.
All right. Since we're talking about this, Spacicle, you have not seen my greatest mug of all time.
No, I haven't. Please.
And yes, you need to show our two viewers, live viewers.
well, one of them is Space Nicole. But
Hi, Space Nicole.
I'm making just for you. I'm gonna wash out the mug, and I will attempt to drink out of it.
Yes, excellent.
lay like a towel down or something first.
All
right?
I want is for you to get like a swirly straw, this the curvy straw that like makes a dinosaur shape while you're drinking out of this mug.
How do you clean those straws anyway?
I don't think you clean them.
Hot water at high pressure.
All right, I am just gonna put water here because the odds of me spilling on myself are incredibly good.
Showing off drinkware, I'm very on theme.
Ooh, I like that. That's really
I do
pretty.
like that. Did you paint that yourself?
No, I definitely did not. It came like that.
It's amazing. I like it. I don't have a cup here. Usually I have like a cat mug, but nope, nothing. I'm so excited for this mug. I'm so excited for you.
Oh yeah, we want to set your expectations. It is the best novelty mug you can barely drink out of that you've ever seen.
Oh, that's great.
Okay.
Do you drink out of the mouth?
That's a good question. See, he has a tongue.
So
I suggested that she like actually just like put the whole mouth inside her mouth.
yeah.
And then just like let it flow in, but apparently that's not like.
So I have there's like this corner right here. You can see.
Yeah.
And you kind of pour it out of that corner. You can maybe like 50% of the time not spill on yourself. So I'm going to try it.
I'm just wrapped.
It really is beautiful. It's a work of art.
I'm just gonna say, unfortunately, because it came at an event that's designed for 11-year-old children, it cannot just have a straw in the tongue and then you like suck the piece of the dinosaur to drink out of it.
You just put a hole right here so you could stick a straw through the top.
But if there was a straw that came out of its mouth, it would look. You would Lady and the Tramp this dinosaur. That's what that would be.
I love that as a verb. That's great. I think what my favorite thing
I do
is
not
that
know who
it takes.
designed it. I got it at Jurassic World Live, which was a live theater event intended for very small children that I found amusing, very bad.
It was in your trash pocket, solidly.
Caitlin, it was my trash pocket.
like
think
is
what's
fully.
great about that is that it takes the fundamental purpose of a mug, which is to be a drinking vessel, and renders it completely impossible. You can't use that.
Interested in being like a photorealistic T-Rex.
Right.
Even if you can see here, there's like scratches on the sides.
Amazing.
Battle.
Like a lot of effort and attention and design work went into that completely unusable cup.
In its defense, apparently it originally came.
The lid is killing me.
The lid is so good. It's amazing.
It apparently originally came with a snow cone in it, which has to be eaten with a spoon.
Yes, but the snow cone. But here, as you can see, there's like a lot of times snow cones kind of come with like a little bit bigger dish around it to catch the extra ice.
Yeah.
There was nothing. Like it was so difficult to eat without just spilling all of this like syrupy ice on myself. So I'm sitting there like,
that's hot.
Okay, so I have another suggestion for what you could use it for, which is Jell-O.
that's true.
You could put Jell-O pieces in there, and like it would be amazing. Or make like a Jell-O brain, and then slowly eat it.
That's true.
Absolutely.
I have not heard of the guy who makes intentionally impractical inventions.
Ooh,
Sorry. If I see something random,
Is that
in the comments.
like Rube Goldberg, like that guy?
No.
I mean, I love Rube Goldberg.
There's definitely another lady who makes robots that are like intentionally Rube Goldbergian, and that they're like overcomplicated robots to do a simple task. Those are very fun.
Oh, that sounds good. Yeah. So I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but I do have to go. But thank you for having me on for the time.
Thank you.
And happy 2nd anniversary / birthday. That's not how science works.
Yeah.
Yeah, your pod is great. And
Thank you.
I'm so glad that I got to see the dino mug again because it brings me such joy.
Do we still need to do the TikTok where I like lip sync the dinosaur to Godzilla?
Yes.
How is that even a question?
Obviously, this is what's happening on your TikTok. You're going to become a TikTok star. You could just make it. You don't even have to ever be in your TikToks. Just have the T-Rex mug lip sync to different songs.
Yes. All right. So that I don't cause you to Minnesota goodbye, I am going to kick you out, Madigan.
Kick me out. Okay, bye, everyone.
Bye.
Gosh. Okay, I haven't spoiled myself so far.
Yeah. So earlier in the stream, we were talking about how Nicole's only social media on her phone is TikTok, and it's just a protest social media.
I haven't even signed up for it. It's just literally downloaded on my phone because I think you can still like sign up. It's just that it won't be available on the App Store after Sunday.
I think it's going to be disabled, is what I heard.
We app is going to be disabled.
Which that one is actually really annoying. I know I've seen a lot of chatter about, you may have already covered this, about how like Chinese diaspora uses that. Like people use that a lot to communicate with their family.
I mean, we all know that national security isn't the real reason that Donald Trump doesn't like TikTok.
What?
What I've seen for TikTok is that you will no longer be able to download TikTok or download updates, but it will still work on your phone. But the problem with that is when necessary security updates come out, which they come out not infrequently on TikTok, people will not be able to patch their apps. So it will just be like a terrible security vulnerability. Yeah. But that's mostly because I follow InfoSec people on Twitter. So they're the ones all being like,
well, again, I didn't really have a plan to use TikTok. If I want to make videos, I'll just go to YouTube. I'm okay with that.
I mean, it's prime time for Twitter to just bring Vine back. So
it's true.
See, and then Vine was interesting because you had the artificial time constraint that you were working against. And so I feel like people had to be very clever in order to get all of their Vine content into this. Yeah.
I think they would have to consider like making it a little longer to like be a TikTok replacement in this situation, but
I mean, they
sounds like
different amounts, like a 5 second to like 20 seconds, a 2 minute or something like that too.
It'd be interesting. It is kind of neat to watch how, I guess, art forms sort of conform to the tools that are available, because like
Yeah.
the concept of a Vine video is, it's a joke or something impressive that you have to be able to do in that super short time frame. Whereas like the other thing I've been seeing recently on Twitter that I had not seen until, I don't know, I hadn't seen it a lot, is people writing like stories as Twitter threads, and the pacing of your storytelling changes a lot when you try to do that, because you've got, obviously a character limit, and then you don't want to necessarily cut yourself off in the middle of a sentence unless you're doing it for effect on purpose. And so it's really interesting to see some of the like narrative devices that come out of having that that limitation on how you can write stuff. And it's so if you copy and paste it into a regular document or whatever, it looks really weird because you've got all these short little disjointed sentences and stuff, and you lose that kind of sense of anticipation when you hit the end of the tweet. Because like sometimes if someone's writing it live, they'll write something and people will reply back, what's gonna happen, or whatever, because it's a cliffhanger, just because they're still composing the next tweet. So anyway, that's been really interesting to watch that sort of form of storytelling, I guess.
Well, I think like YouTube is an interesting example too, because of the way that the YouTube algorithm has changed over time, and because of like early in the days of YouTube, you wanted your video to be like 2 to 5 minutes. Like there was research showing that people wouldn't watch anything that was longer than 2 to 5 minutes. And now the algorithm consistently recommends longer videos because YouTube can put more ads on them. So like doing a 40-minute video now is actually pretty good idea because it'll recommend it.
Well, what's interesting, so Space Nicole, were you talking about when people are just telling like this is the thing that happened to me stories on Twitter, or is this like fictional stories
like
on
creative
Twitter?
fiction? I mean, it's fan fiction mostly, but
Okay.
fiction stories people will be writing
Gotcha.
as they go, and so you get like it works really well for sometimes you get kind of like almost a horror vibe, because it's really easy to create the separation between actions and that kind of just little bit of anticipation, or it'll have like a very fairy tale feeling to it, just because everything has to be kind of representational, and it's just interesting to
Gotcha.
watch.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I've seen people telling like this is a story that happened to me, kind of true stories, and I've seen people doing fiction but pretending it's a thing that happened. Like there's been some haunted house style threads, but I think the only like fan fictiony one I've seen was that epic like what if Raylo was an office drama thread from like 2 years ago.
hey now, I wrote my masterpiece, the true ending of Fantastic Beasts.
That's true. That was
Dumbledore just beats the crap out of all.
But you see, I don't even think of that as fan fiction. That's just canon. So,
I mean, that's canon for me.
Since those movies no longer have an author, that your thread is now canon. So
it is true. It is true.
But it's interesting you bring up the YouTube algorithm changing thing, because part of it, like, back in the day, you would get incentivized based on how many people made it to the end. So you would want a video to be like 2 to 5 minutes, but definitely no longer than 10 minutes. And now 10 plus is like the sweet spot, because as soon as you hit 10 minutes, you can put mid-roll ads in. And what's interesting about that is one of the things YouTube figured out, or at least that they tell people in their creator studio type things, is that people will pretty much watch the same percentage of a video regardless of how long it is. So if you have a 40-minute video and they watch 10%, that's 4 minutes, versus if you have a 4-minute video and they watch 10%, that's like 4 seconds. I think I did my math right. And so like
not quite, but because you're in a basic 12 system, but that's okay.
I was like, I'm not sure if that's good math. Well, I mean, as I was saying it, I was like, wait a minute. 60 seconds in a minute. Anyway, whatever. Time is weird.
10% of 4 minutes is 0.4 minutes, so that would be 40 seconds.
Yeah.
No, that's not about 24.
That's not how math works.
I don't need to learn math.
Anyway, the point is 10% or 20% of 4 minutes is a lot less than 10 or 20% of 40 minutes.
Yes.
So that's when like YouTube, like that plus the ability to put mid-roll ads in, like they have really encouraged people to make longer videos, which is kind of a relief to me because when I first started my booktube channel, I was like, it was so hard for me to get my videos under 10 minutes because I just talk too much. Like honestly, it's not because it's compelling or interesting.
Yeah.
I just talk too much and it's hard to edit myself. I know, shocking. But now like I've been posting some like longer vlogs, or like I did a video where I had like I played a game to help choose my TBR as part of a like readathon, and I was like, I mean,
by the way,
I don't have that pressure now to make my videos so short. I still want to keep them shorter because I know that a lot of people watching my videos are like people I personally know, and I don't want to like tax them, but it's not so stressful.
Yes. Yeah, I don't know. I just find that very interesting. So should I get to like the actual music part about this?
Probably.
Yeah.
I have to remember what I was writing about. So the song that we were talking about, maybe I should work on, Space Nicole, is I have this concept album idea where I write songs about lady scientists, which sounds really cool, except it turns out that writing like informative lyrics that rhyme is really hard.
Yep.
So
everyone who worked on Schoolhouse Rock back in the day is like, we told you.
I believe me, like writing lyrics is honest to goodness one of the hardest parts about writing a song. Like once I get the lyrics in, it's like, okay, now I can just like have fun on my computer and my digital piano. But like until then, I gotta like buckle down and stuff.
Talk to me about your songwriting process. Do you start with lyrics? Do you start with a tune in mind? Do you?
It's just utter chaos. So generally, like, what will happen is either like a melody will come to me and I'll be like, oh, that's a catchy melody, or I'll just kind of like be singing to myself in my apartment like a crazy person, and I'll be like, that's a catchy melody. Or I will kind of be like, what if I were to make a song that was kind of in this style or about this particular thing? And then eventually something will come to me, which is probably most of what I've actually completed. Not necessarily most of what I've started, but most of what I've actually completed is something that came to me. And then like writing music takes a long time because it just takes a long time to record everything and then do the audio stuff. So I have tons of projects that I've started and I've like just not finished because I got to a point where I was like, okay, I'm done for now. And then I just never came back to it. So that's usually what'll happen. And then often if I have some sort of like melody, if it's not something that I'm writing like really specific, like That's Not How Science Works song, like, you know, melody's great and everything, but we kind of have to at some point say that's not how science works. Usually like there will be something about the rhythm that will suggest a certain order of words, and so those will kind of come to me. But honestly, like the lyric writing process is really hard because I don't want to just have completely stupid lyrics. Like I'm very generous with myself with like slant rhymes and stuff, and like near rhymes, because the English language is actually really hard to rhyme in. And so it's like, there's a lot of times I'm like, yeah, if I sing these two words a certain way, it's close enough.
It's hard to rhyme in, and that's if you can get everyone to agree what you're, whose vowels you're using. Yeah.
Exactly. And so like, ideally I like to get the lyrics done early, but because lyrics are really hard, a lot of times I'll get some of the lyrics done and then start working on like the playing music, which is a little bit more fun to me, just because it requires more like dorking around with my piano than it does like sitting down and thinking, how do I rhyme these two things? Especially if I want lyrics that actually tell a story and aren't just like nonsense lyrics, which plenty of songwriters write nonsense lyrics, and I know that people get made fun of it for it, but it's because honestly, sometimes you're like, I don't know what to do, but I have this great melody.
Yeah.
And so if I get the lyrics done, which is, I would say, not most of the time, but I'll at least have it started usually by the time I start recording the music, and I'll usually have a fairly good idea of what I want the song to sound like when I go to start recording. That's not always true. Like with the really dumb Godzilla King of the Monsters song that I wrote for the podcast, I didn't really have that much done. I pretty much just had like a vague idea for the chorus, and then I started messing around on my computer, and it all just kind of came together as if like there was an angel of God standing over my shoulder and guiding me. But that one was a slightly different situation because the chorus was very simple, and we had like all of the quote unquote lyrics because it was all of the ridiculous stuff that like Medican had sampled for us. So then usually like once I get the music written, I usually won't record any vocals until like I'm pretty much done with the recording from my piano part of it. And then recording the vocals takes a really long time, partially because I forget that like just because I came up with melody in my head does not mean I can just automatically sing it. Like so like often I'll like start recording, I'm like, wow, I'm a terrible singer. And then I'll get better as I keep going. And it's like, right, because your throat is a muscle and you can't just tell your muscle, do this thing that you've never done before and expect yourself to be good at it. And so often I'll kind of get hung up on the voice recording part, partially because of that, and partially because I do not have the best mic for recording music.
Fair.
I mean, your mouth makes a lot of really terrible noises when you talk, and people don't really notice it, but like you do when it's recorded in something like an audiobook or music or something. Oh yeah, bye.
Bye. Thank you so much for dropping
Yeah,
in.
thank you so much.
Now we are truly yelling into the void.
Yeah, it's fine. And so like that usually takes me a while, and that's honestly the thing that probably hangs me up the most, because sometimes I'll get to the part where I'm recording lyrics and I'm like, wow, like either this part doesn't work or like this is just really hard to sing, and that would require me actually putting an effort to learn to sing that. So like a lot of times, I would say most of the stuff that I've gotten really close to finishing is stuff that's like, I really just have to go back and like re-record the lyrics and maybe like tweak the ending of the song. Like it's probably 80% of the way done, but like that 80% is frustrating because like it feels like you should be done already. Like you have so much already done, and like that last little bit goes into like polishing it up, so it's not very obvious. And I think another thing that I have struggled with a bit is that like doing the instrument part is relatively easy because GarageBand just kind of like, here's your options, pick ones. It's not the most sophisticated sampling of instruments, but it's what I got because it's free. With recording audio, it's harder because like the way it sounds depends not only on the filters that I put on the computer side, but the way I sing it. And so like there are a lot of ways that it can come out, and like actually recording a song is pretty much like you just have to sit down and record the whole thing, even though it'll take like hours and hours, because it's never going to sound exactly the same as that one time you went and set it up and started singing and recording, because your voice doesn't always sound exactly the same. And like I've been learning how to mix the vocals so they sound better. So like I think the most recent song that I did, like I think that the vocals turned out pretty well, and it was because I realized that like none of the filters that they were giving me were quite right. And so I put so I duplicated the audio and I put them on 2 different tracks, and then I had filters for the 2 different tracks, and then the mix of those was what I was looking for. And so because I don't know what I'm doing and I am learning as I go, that is a difficult thing. Yes. So basically what I am saying is I do not know what I am doing at all. This is me stumbling in the dark with a program and a digital piano.
Have you ever seen any of those like interviews or like videos where Billie Eilish will pick apart one of her songs with her brother and show like how they came up with it?
I have not, no.
I will try to find the one that I'm thinking of, but like basically I think that you would like the way Billie Eilish will put things together would resonate with you because she'll find like really strange sounds and be like, let's sample that. Let's put that in this. Or like she'll sing the same sound like 60 times till she finds the exact way she wants it to be and then cuts it up and uses it in interesting ways. So
yeah, and see that's I think one of the interesting parts about singing vocals too is that like I find myself just singing really small snippets, stopping and then being like, is this good enough? No, and then re-recording until it sounds like exactly the way I want it to. Which can be very annoying when you're like, okay, I've been singing the same thing for like 10 minutes now. And like, this is a like 15-second clip. So like, get your act together, girl.
So that's one thing that, I've been singing since I was a kid, but always, live. So like in choirs or whatever. And it's definitely very different to the couple of times I've tried recording something. Cause like I am used to, here you go. You've got one shot. However it comes out is how it's going to come out. It's a live performance. You're singing the song all the way through, and if you screw up and at the beginning, just keep on going. And so it's like it was very odd. The couple of times I've tried to record music is like, no, go ahead and finish, then we can go back and get the beginning again. Or like, if you hate this take, we can stop, take a break, come back. Like it was just a really weird way to approach a song. So piecemeal, because like in my brain I'm like, we're recording this, it has to be spot on perfect from beginning to end all in one go, and like that's not how recording music works.
And I think recorded singing is like the dissonance of like how your voice sounds to you inside your head versus how it sounds recorded. It's always a little weird in just like speaking recordings, but like when I'm talking, I'm usually not thinking about the tone of my voice. But when I'm singing, I am thinking about my tone. So then hearing it played back in a recording is always like very jarring because I'm like,
what? Yeah, and
that's what I sound like. I hate it. I apologize for everyone who has to listen to me ever.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting too because I find that like there is a certain amount that your brain is just willing to forgive when you're hearing it live too. Like you're sitting there saying like, I have to sing this perfectly, but the people in the audience, even if you aren't perfect, as long as you're pretty close, they'll be like, that's good enough. But when you're hearing the same recording again and again, if there's like any dissonance, you pick up on it, which is so annoying. I hate it.
I also wonder how much of that, this is a very unscientific statement, even though we are a science podcast. I wonder how much of that is like the way that sound waves feel to you. Like, do you know what I'm talking about? Like when you're in a concert hall with good acoustics, like you feel the music. Yeah. And like when I am sitting at home with my mediocre sound system, aka I don't have one, I have a boombox or my headphones, it doesn't give me the same visceral feeling. So I wonder if that's part of like, I'm actually pretty picky in terms of like quality because I spent a lot of time as a small child listening to high quality choral music. So now like I'm kind of picky about that. But I think you're right that like there's stuff my brain will forgive in a live performance that it would not in a recording.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird experience. And the other thing that I have like realized about my voice is that like, so I've never had any voice lessons, so I don't really know what I'm doing. But from listening to other people, their head voice and their chest voice sound a lot more similar than mine do. And so like, I think when I was younger, it was something that I struggled with because like I wanted to imitate the sound quality that I heard on the radio, but I can only do that in my, like I can only belt in my chest voice. I can't really do it in my head voice. And so it's like a blessing and a curse because like on the one hand, if I'm trying to sing something, like there are parts where it's like, wow, I do not sound like the same person in this section and this section, but that can also like lead to some really cool effects. Like I can do like like almost a fake falsetto sounding voice and layer it down with a chest voice. And it's like, it sounds really neat. And it's like not necessarily a thing that you can necessarily do with female singers. And part of it is that I have a fairly low range for a female singer. I can't go extremely high, but I can go pretty low. So I don't know, like there's that too. It's just like some of it too is just like learning what your voice can do and what you're capable of and like what you're also not capable of.
Yeah. I was gonna say,
that I imagine that must be interesting for writing a song because, and I've never like tried to write music. I like to change lyrics to existing songs a lot. I have written a lot of filks in my time, but like in terms of starting from scratch and being like, hey, there's no lyrics, no melody, go hog wild, you can do whatever you want. That's not something I've ever attempted to do. And I think it would be really weird because obviously when you're writing a song, you can write it for any voice part and any
Yeah,
kind of
absolutely.
style of singer or whatnot. And then you're sitting there, you're like, but it is only me who can record this song. And so like,
No,
I guess that would
absolutely.
be an interesting limitation if you're like, man, this would sound really cool if, Johnny Cash sang it. But alas, I am not Johnny Cash,
That's a really great point. And I will say that like when I'm writing something in my head, I rarely hear myself singing it. And so sometimes when I go back to sing it, I'm like, I really wish I had a different sounding voice. And so then I like, make it work for what I have.
We were watching a series of like, it was kind of a behind the scenes, the making of, I think it was Frozen 2. And it was really interesting because they kept a lot of it because it's a Disney musical. So a lot of it is about the songwriting and a lot of it was about the songwriting team and how they wrote the different songs. It was just really interesting because all the demos that they would bring to the production meetings and stuff like that was this lady and her husband, they were singing it, and one of the two, they would sing and they would play and they would put a little demo track together, but it was like one of the two of them. But it's really interesting because obviously they were writing for Kristen Bell and Idina Menzel and Jonathan Groff, and so like you could definitely tell on the different songs when they're doing the like, this is I'm not Idina Menzel, but I'm singing this like Idina. It was just really interesting to hear songs written for a specific artist that way. And like even though it was from the same writing team, when they were recording it, but you could tell that they were kind of like, okay, you're listening to me sing this, but please in your mind imagine what it will sound like when we give it to Kristen Bell, and so that was kind of
that is really cool.
Do either of you did either of you watch that like songwriting reality show that was on, I think, Hulu last summer? It's like, it was a very interesting show, but I'm like a little bit sad because it was like the premise was like, oh, we're writing the next hit song. And so they would have songwriters come on for a specific band or artist. And then that band or artist would choose like the top, they would have 4 people come and like, here's the concept of my song. And then they would pick 3 of them. And those 3 people would be paired with different producers in the music industry, like very well-known producers. And they would workshop over the next week the song, and then they would come back and play it again for the artist, and then the artist would pick one that they were going to record themselves. And I don't think any of the songs the artists ended up picking actually became like real hits, which is a little bit of a bummer because it's like a very interesting show and has a cool concept, and like you want these little songwriters to do well. But for me, it was the most interesting thing about watching this was watching the songwriting process of like a producer and a songwriter writing for a specific artist. And they would be like, okay, this song that I wrote kind of on spec generally, how do I make it a song that this specific person like will.i.am or the Jonas Brothers or someone else will sing?
Yeah, that sounds like a really interesting challenge because obviously like when I'm writing for myself, it doesn't matter what style I have. Like I found recently that I've been going a lot more towards like alternative stuff, but sometimes I'll come up with like, I don't know, weird, like slightly more poppy and rocky stuff, and that's fine. But yeah, like trying to match someone else's style would be a really interesting.
Without sounding like you're just being completely derivative of their previously released works, because you don't want it to sound like a bad knockoff of one of their
and songs, and sometimes the artist would challenge them to be like I picked your song and not the person who didn't get picked because something about it interested me. So the producers would work with them to be like, okay, how do we make this something that is a reasonable song for this person to sing, but that is also maybe pushing them a little bit or in a little new direction or who they want to be in the future, not who they are today.
Right.
So.
Right. Yeah, that is really interesting. Yeah, and it's interesting too to see that like, so I've only had my digital piano for a couple years, so I've only really been like actually writing stuff because I only had the ability to actually record things for about 2 years now, 3 years now, 2 years now, yes. And so it is interesting to see too, like how juvenile some of the early stuff that like I thought was really good at the time now sounds to me, because like I've gotten better at this. And I think I don't know, I think it's interesting, like it helps me understand more how like artists' sounds change over time, either because they get better at what they do or they want to do something different.
Yeah. I don't know if either of you watched Miss Americana, the Taylor
I
Swift
have not.
documentary. But one of the things she talks about in it is, that has been quoted many places, is how like women, if you see like successful female artists who've managed to have a longer career, they have to constantly invent themselves. And you can see how with each album, like Taylor is often reinventing herself, and like compared to like say the Rolling Stones, who are like rolling on with that same sound. But I wonder, like she said it as like a challenge in like a way that like this is a negative thing because we don't give women, like we only are interested in women as a novelty and not as like who they are and who they mature. But I also think what's interesting about the way Taylor Swift has developed is like she's constantly pushing herself in her albums, and I don't always love the direction she's gone in. But I wonder if like Mick Jagger ever gets bored of just being the same sound or having the same, like if you think about some of the really big boy bands of like the 60s, they were also often like maybe not totally reinventing themselves, but like pushing boundaries.
Like late Beatles.
Yeah.
Right. And what's his name from the Beach Boys? The Pet Sounds, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
The like seminal album like was very controversial when it came out because it's such a weird sound, and the Beach Boys are supposed to be this reproducible, well-known, like they have this specific sound, and yet then this album came out and had all of this weird stuff.
Brian Wilson was also on drugs at the time, so that also affected things.
Yes.
Not that the people weren't on drugs; they were also on drugs.
I was about to say.
I mean, it was the 60s.
My writing process has changed because I've gotten better, and not because I have gotten on drugs. Since I got my digital piano.
Important to note.
But yeah, it's a fun. I don't know. It's a fun challenge. I wish I could do more of it, just because it takes a really long time to write a song from beginning to end. Like it doesn't necessarily take long in terms of like days. Like I think my Pathologic song I wrote in like 3 days, which is I think the fastest that I've ever put something together. I pretty much just like only worked on that because basically like the day before I was like, what if I wrote a song about Pathologic? And then I had like kind of this tune. I'm like, that's catchy. And then I woke up the next morning and I was like, that tune is still stuck in my head. All right, well, I guess that we're doing this then. But it does take like, it takes probably like, it's like probably like 10 to 20 hours to like just write a single song. And like, I can only imagine how long it takes people who are working in a studio with like, even with like tons of people collaborating, because like you have to be even more polished than like whatever garbage I put on the internet. I don't know, I do not think that like, I don't know. I think that creativity is like a cruel mistress because I find myself being pushed to create things or I feel like unhappy and incomplete, but the process of being creative is very difficult and time consuming. And you don't see that coming from the back end when, you end up with this like 2 to 4 minute long, like nice polished studio single, but like, there is like a part of a person's soul that is in that thing, probably multiple people's souls that are in that thing.
Well, I think even with Pathologic, where like you say you wrote it in 3 days, but I don't think it was really just 3 days because you also like had been really consumed by this world for so long. And like there's so much thinking that's happening when you're not actively working on a song that's still contributing to the song. It's just like your subconscious rather than your conscious.
Not to mention all of the like years and hours of writing other songs and learning how to like put music together and all of that stuff that goes into it. Like it's never just, how many billable hours go to one particular creative unit.
Oh, she's speaking the lawyer words.
No, but I mean that's not how creative work works.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And what can be really frustrating about being creative, like making creative products too, is that like I honestly think like one of the best things that I've written is that dumb Godzilla song that I made for the podcast.
It's
And it
so great. I love it.
from beginning to end, I think I did it in like a day. I think that I recorded the song like in a few hours, like the music part for the song, and because there was so little required for me on the like the vocal side, I was able to record the rest of it just like that afternoon. It's like one of the easiest things I've put together, and I still think it's one of my best. And that's frustrating when you compare it, like when I compare it to things that I've spent more time on, and then either like gotten a product that I don't like quite as much, or like gotten frustrated with and just not come back to.
The short story you bang out all in one go in an hour and a half versus, the longer story you try to write for months. And yeah.
My Charles story.
Yeah. Yeah. It's weird how like sometimes, I don't know, I feel like sometimes with, if you're whatever kind of art you're trying to make, right? Like sometimes it's just like it shows up in your brain as a fully realized concept and you're like, cool, let me put this down. Let me, birth this into the world, like here you go, and just you have that flow and it's really nice. And then sometimes you're like, this is a story I want to tell or a song I want to make or a piece of art I'd like to produce, and like there's just a lot going on to turn that nebulous idea in your head into something that can actually exist in the world, and it doesn't
Oh,
always work right
absolutely.
all the time.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think I was telling Caitlin this, but I think too, one of the things that I've been struggling a little bit in my long writing process, aside from the fact that I like cannot write short things, and this is a problem that I've had since like literally the beginning of time, is the fact that like when I come up with a story that I want to write, it's hard because like I have characters and I have the way that they look and I have the way that their settings look and I have all of that in my mind. Like I am a very like I have a very vivid imagination that way, and it's frustrating to try to translate to the page, not only because like your mind often thinks that you have the details down better than you actually do, and then you try to write it and you're like, I don't actually know how this room looks, I just think I know. But also because like there is a way that this story makes me feel, and it's really hard to convey that in a written form. Like I think I remember that John Steinbeck said something about like how he didn't think that the Grapes of Wrath came out as well as he kind of had it in his head. And like, I kind of get that now. Like, I'm not John Steinbeck. I'm not even close to John Steinbeck, but it's because like there is an intense emotionality to a story that you can't just translate to a page. And at least with like the music writing process, it may not sound exactly when I finally get it down the way it does in my head, but I'm translating music to music as opposed to like story and characters and voices and emotions to something that's written that is also all of those things simultaneously. It is very difficult.
Have either or both of you read Strange the Dreamer, that duology?
Well, I've only read the first one.
Okay. So it's kind of like how in this book, Strange the Dreamer, it's like a fantasy novel. Everyone has like a second circulatory system, and it basically contains liquid soul, is kind of the short of it. And at one point, what comes up is like this one character has found like the secret alchemy to create whatever, and your main point of view character figures out that part of what he's doing is taking a little bit of that like soul liquid and like using it in the process. It is a teeny tiny detail. But just the like idea of like this second circulatory system that has like liquid soul in it, it just like makes me think that like sometimes when you manage to actually get like a feeling into something you write on the page, what it feels like to me, like how it differs from like more academic or like straightforward persuasive writing, is like instead of like taking a complex scientific topic and trying to write it on one page for my boss, what I'm doing is like cutting open my second circulatory system and dripping some soul onto the page.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
It is.
Yeah,
Well,
and
then everything you write or every song you produce, every art is always a conversation, right? So like
yes.
the bit of soul that you're trying to put out there and the mood that you're thinking of in your head when you're writing something is not necessarily the headspace that the reader, the consumer, the person on the other end is going to come with it. And so they're bringing all of their own stuff. And so it's just really interesting how to like navigate that to convey at least roughly the vibe, I guess,
Right.
for lack of a better
Yes.
word, that you're going for, like knowing that no one else is going to be picturing it exactly the same way as you. How do you get it close enough that you're talking about the same story, or
Yeah,
you're talking about the same?
absolutely. No, I totally agree with that. And like with writing, I think especially I like writing from the first person perspective. It's probably bad because writing from first person is really, really hard. Because you have to manage the balance between like stream of consciousness, but like you don't really want to hear every single thought someone is thinking. And so I know like that's something that I'm gonna have to like fix in revisions, but like I like the way that you can be in someone's brain and feel the way that they're feeling. And I think that's why I'm drawn to it. But like I don't know, the writing process is just a complete mess, and my book's already too long, and
Fine.
and I'm getting to the parts now where like Charles is like legitimately talking about like his past and his trauma, and it's like it's sometimes painful to write because like I feel for this character that I have birthed. Like I feel like I am Zeus and Charles is Athena in my head, and I'm just like trying to get him out. Like I have to get him out of my head. He needs to stop living in my head rent free. It's
So
really
he can just leave rent free in our heads.
yes, exactly. You need to help me with the rent, okay?
The timeshare.
Exactly. But it's weird to be like getting like very emotional and like sad when writing about a fictional character that I've made up. But like, man, Charles has gone through some garbage stuff, and like he's just like and it's hard too because like I'm in his head, I am his head, but at the same time I'm not Charles's head, and it's really hard to watch Charles be like, I don't think that I'm a good person. I'm like, Charles, you are like freaking amazing person. Like you quit being hard on yourself. Just freaking talk to your therapist, my dude. Would you just tell your therapist what's going on? I don't know. It's a weird process, and I think what's interesting about writing too is like your characters can sort of lie to you. Like there are times when I'm like, I should not write this thing because Charles would not tell someone who is in his head that thing. Like he would keep that from them. And so like sometimes it'll be like him saying, I respond this way. Or sometimes like it's weird because he'll like go on a diatribe about something and like vaguely hint at something, but like never actually go there. And I'm like, Charles, freaking talk to your therapist about this thing. But like I don't know, it's weird the way that like characters work that way. Maybe that's just because he lives so rent free in my head, and just Charles.
All right. Do you have some proto lyrics for this song?
So this song is about a woman named Emilie de Châtelet, and she is a woman who translated Isaac Newton's Principia into French, and she also, when she did it, she created some math proofs that helped prove some of the laws of motion. And she also had a long-standing affair with Voltaire, which is fascinating. And like,
sorry, I'm just getting closer to the camera because I'm just like, we learned about Isaac Newton in how many classes? And like, did any of you learn about this woman in school?
No.
Never heard of her.
No,
and yet she had the mathematical proofs that helped to prove
so she came up with some, she did some of her own experiments, and like, she was married, but she was kind of notorious for sleeping around because she was like ability. Makes sense. So like she had this long-standing affair with Voltaire, and like he kind of encouraged her to like, hey, you really love math. You should just set up a laboratory and forget about society. So like she shacked up with him and like had her own laboratory, and then like tragically she died, I think, in her 40s because she got pregnant. And like getting pregnant in your 40s back in the 1700s was not a good thing. But like she also had this fascinating thing where she was like not always good with money, but she was really good with math. So she like got really good at gambling for a while, and she also did
like counting cards.
Yeah, she did like some proto security stuff in order to pay off some of her gambling debts one time. Like just like a really interesting and weird and smart lady. So
It's
yeah.
not entirely weird that someone could be good at math and bad with money, because I think that being good with money requires a different skill set than being good at math.
Yeah, so she basically she was just like a prodigy. Like she spoke like 6 languages by the time she was 12 or something like that. And like it was interesting because apparently her dad really was like, yeah, you just go study whatever you want, Emily. Like you do you. And her mom, like it's a little bit unclear, but potentially was like, you can't tell our daughter to do that, and like tried to get her sent to a nunnery. But her dad was like having none of it. So yeah, she's really cool. So I've gotten to the part where here, I'll just read you the lyrics. Was born in 1706, the only girl child of 6, and my daddy saw quite early that I'm something of a genius. He let me study what society thought above me, though my mom thought he was crazy, tried to send me to a nunnery. Was a tween polyglot, liked fencing quite a lot, but it was math and science that I thought the most hot. When I was 10, the Secretary of Academy de Sciences talked to me about astronomy because my dad arranged the visit. As a teen strapped for cash, I used my knowledge of math to place bets, win money. This is why I study. And what did I do with what I won? What any lady would have done. I pulled out my pocketbook and I bought books. I'm a Marquise baby. Do as I please, baby, but I'm no simple fleur-de-lis, baby. Why would I stay at home crocheting when I could be debating the secrets of our universe that wait for our discovering? A lady's place is in her laboratory, not waiting around for men to tell her story. And all who disagree are nugatory. Let me repeat my name for history.
I really like this, and I also am getting like 6 vibes from this. Like, is this kind of going to be like
100% inspired by 6? I was
okay.
like, I made a concept album. Here, let me pull up because this is really like a spoken word song, but I need to pull up.
It almost sounds like a rap.
Yeah, it is. It's like it's kind of rap light. Yes, it's a little bit more like a patter song, somewhere between a patter song and rap. Except for the chorus, and then I have a bridge, which is where I'm currently at with the lyrics, where I'm working on the part where she is translating Principia and doing her experiments. And then I have one more verse I need to write where she talks about how like she got pregnant and was like, well, I realized that I probably only have so long to live, so I have to kind of finish things up. And then final chorus. So let me... I might change this around a little bit. Okay, wait. Yes. It's been a while since I've done this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Je m'appelle Gabrielle, Émilie Le Tonnier de Breteuil, Marquise de Châtelet. Eh oui, I'm super science-y. Born in 1706, the only girl child of 6, and my daddy saw quite early that I'm something of a genius. He let me study what society thought above me, though my mom thought he was crazy, tried to send me to a nunnery. Was a tween polyglot, liked fencing quite a lot, but it was math and science that I thought the most hot. When I was 10, the Secretary of Academy de Sciences talked to me about astronomy because my dad arranged the visit. As a teen strapped for cash, I used my knowledge of math to place bets, win money. This is why I study. And what did I do with what I won? Why, what any lady would have done, I pulled out my pocketbook and I bought books. I'm a Marquise, baby. Do as I please, baby. But I'm no simple fleur-de-lis, baby. Why would I stay at home crocheting when I could be debating the secrets of our universe that wait for our discovering? A lady's place is in her laboratory, not waiting around for men to tell her story. And all who disagree are nugatory. Let me repeat my little story. 1, 2, 3, 4. Je m'appelle Gabrielle, Émilie Le Tonnier de Breteuil, Marquise de Châtelet. Eh oui, I'm super science-y. I got got married because that's the thing, but I didn't let that ring stop me from my learning. I was yearning to get back to studying. I got myself some tutors. Sometimes they found me rude, or I asked them questions, made suggestions, and they couldn't answer. Insatiable curiosity, am I right? These colors, oh dang. I changed the rhythm here. It's been so long since I've done this. Basically, like, I remember reading.
So fun.
Yes.
Like, after she got married, because, like, you kind of had to get married, she got a bunch of tutors so that she could study, but basically she was too smart for them. And so,
Yes.
and so, like, she started going to, oh, I forgot about this part. Yes. So she went to this cafe, like, back in the day, French men would, like, go debate science in cafes. They probably still do, because that sounds like literally the most French thing you could do.
Yeah.
It's like it was kind of like the British equivalent of a gentleman's club. So, like, no allowed. And so she tried to go one time so she could join one of her tutors. And the men were like, well, you can't be there. So she went over to a tailor and got a man's suit made and just kind of, like, snuck in, which is incredible. And then after that, she started getting involved with Voltaire, which is pretty great. And oh, here we go. I rewrote these lyrics. Yeah, and so he, like, her husband didn't really care that she just started shacking up with Voltaire because French. That's all I can say about that. So yeah, like, after that, yeah, Principia. So I'm done with all that part. The part that I am at is basically I want to do this weird thing because my brain tells me to, where I'm changing over to organ music. And I am not sure that I remember that I was not happy with how it was turning out, but I also realized that I needed to have the lyrics done before I went back to it. So far what I have with this is I started with Leibniz, but then I moved to studying Isaac Newton. I was captivated. I picked up a pen, started my magnum opus, a translation of Principia, the book in which Newton lays out the basic laws of physics, but I added my commentary to the mix, the results of my own experiments. So I have to describe Emily's experiments. And yes, I agree. I did not hear about this lady's super rad exploits until I started writing this and researching, like, cool lady scientist people, because we aren't taught about cool lady scientist people in the science classes.
Yeah.
Here we go.
I think this is a worthy project.
I think she also helped Voltaire with some of his, like, research too, if I remember correctly. It's been a little while since I've come to this. But the Wikipedia page is probably not what I was working from, because this does not have the level of detail that I had in my lyrics, which is unfortunate. So, but yeah, so that's this song. But maybe this would not be the best thing to do, because, again, like I said, writing lyrics that are informative is very hard. Thank you, Schoolhouse Rock.
It is. It's tricky.
With your I'm Just a Bill. And my personal favorite, lolly, 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 get your adverbs here.
That is a good one.
Underappreciated, in my opinion. Everyone.
I'm personally a fan of interjection just because it's very fun to sing.
Yes, interjection's a good one. I'm pretty sure I have Schoolhouse Rock somewhere. My parents got it for me for Christmas.
They're all on Netflix now. I'm sorry, no, they're all on not Netflix. They're all on Disney Plus.
Oh, excellent.
We discovered
Definitely.
and also discovered that you should not try to shotgun all of them in one go, because it just becomes a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot, yeah.
Definitely How a Bill Becomes a Law was, like, the one I remember the most, but I also am a fan of Conjunction Junction.
So I got really into Schoolhouse Rock when I was a teenager for a while. I don't know why exactly, but my mom got the DVD and I was like, these are real catchy. So I think personally, some of the underappreciated ones are, there's one about electricity that's pretty good. I really like the one for number 7. Lolly, 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 get your adverbs here is my personal favorite. What were the other ones? Because I remember they had, like, a top 10 list on the DVD, and I was like, I disagree with this list. Like, these are probably the top 10 best known, but I don't think that these are necessarily like the
best songs.
Yeah, I don't think from a standpoint of songs they're quite the best ones, but I like the part on Lolly 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 Get Your Adverbs here when like the little one's like, and they're absolutely free. It's Lolly 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 Get Your Adverbs.
No one should ever have told me that adverbs are free because I took all of them.
The best part of all is they're absolutely free. Like, okay, thank you.
Perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a question. Like, how do you spice up your dialogue when you're writing things? Because that's something that I'm struggling with. Is like, I don't like the weird part about writing dialogue is you can't always just like, I mean, aside from the obvious fact of you need to know who the speaker is, but there's like a flow to dialogue that you have to sort of replicate in print, and the way you do that is by breaking up the dialogue with other stuff. And so sometimes it's like, I need a pause here, otherwise it just sounds like two people are shouting at each other. But I don't know how best to put in the pauses and how also to convey emotions without just like throwing up adverbs everywhere.
Yeah. I have sort of the opposite problem in that almost always when I write, it's like it starts as a dialogue or a conversation. Like almost think like a script basically with these characters are talking at each other and here's where this one would interrupt and blah blah blah, and like so I can hear sort of the flow of how the conversation should go, and then I have to back out and be like, where are these people, how are they having this conversation? Is it at a school? Are they outside? Are they in someone's living room? What's going on? Is there, and like it's just really funny because I've talked to a lot of people about this, and some people have like a very clear visual scene in their mind when they sit down to write. And a friend of mine was saying, she's like, she writes all of her stuff as though it's stage directions. So she's like, if someone sets down a coffee mug, that coffee mug is in my mind for the entire rest of the scene because I know that there's a coffee mug on this table. Whereas like, oh man, I'm the opposite. I have someone slam a mug on the table for emphasis and then go, oh wait, they need to have been holding a mug. And so like for me when I write, like literally backgrounds don't exist until the characters have to interact with them. And so it's just kind of weird because like a lot of what I will imagine as sort of the seed of a story is basically a little snippet of back and forth dialogue or something like that. And then I have to kind of back out and like, all right, why are they having this conversation? What's going on? Like what brought them to this point? And so it's very, I don't know.
That's really funny. I'm definitely more like your friend. And this is part of the reason why writing is also a struggle for me, because my brain is like, but I cannot figure out this story until you have the world built, Nicole. So is your world finished yet, Nicole? And so like this is why I've been like stalking this particular high school that this story is set in, and like I found there's a really adorable lip sync dub video that they did a few years ago that like shows them going through most of the school. That is like the most helpful thing ever, because I'm like, oh, now I know what your cafeteria looks like and your library looks like and all of your hallways look like. And they also have a weird bronze kangaroo statue by the door, which is delightful because they are the kangaroos. So that's, I don't know, it's really interesting seeing how different people write things, because it's like all over the place, and somehow writers of all walks make it work for them.
I do. I'm also the person who like, whether I'm writing or reading, particularly when reading, I like retain zero information about what a character looks like. And so like I will read whole novels, and if you ask me like, oh, what does this person look like? I'm like, I can't possibly tell you what I look like, but I can make the face that they're making when they say this in chapter 8. Like it's really weird because it's not, I don't know. I guess I don't have a very visual imagination a lot of times. And so like to me, what color hair this guy has or how long her sleeves
Doesn't
are,
matter.
like that's like the least interesting thing you could tell me about a character. And so it's really funny because like I'll get to the end of a book and then like I've never had the experience of like a movie, say, casting or a show or whatever, like doing a casting and being like, oh my God, that's not what they look like. Because I'm like, oh, okay, sure, that's what they look like. It's just, I don't know. And I'm not sure I don't necessarily have that problem with people. Like the people I know in real life, I know what they
Right.
look like
It's
and
just
I
like
care and I notice when they change their hair or whatever. But like for whatever reason, fictional characters, and I think it's partially just that you get so in their heads and you're kind of like hanging out, right behind them right here. That what they look like or dress like or whatever, like that's just it doesn't feel relevant to knowing them
yeah.
as a person, I guess.
Yeah. No, I totally get that. And that's something that I'm like future Nicole is gonna have to deal with in editing because like I'm at the point where I don't know how important all of that is. And also because I'm in first person, I'm like, I'm not even sure how much Charles even notices. um so like basically Charles meets someone, he's like, this is what their hair looks like. And I'm like, I guess you're just know people by their hair, Charles, because I don't really know. Like and the other thing too is like I think especially because like Charles is friends with a lot of teenage girls, I don't actually want to describe what they look like too much because I think like I mean, beyond the implications of me being a 30-year-old woman describing a bunch of teenagers, like I think too, like it's important to feel like, not everyone is necessarily like a skinny blonde girl. So I don't know. There's also that. Like I have basically a lot of like I will try to like hint at somebody's ethnicity because I want to like make sure that if someone is not white, that the reader knows that because I don't want them to just assume that everyone is white and be like, but also the world is diverse, white readers. So have fun with that, my friends. But like at the same time, like a lot of the ways in which we hint that characters are not white is like not great too. Like saying like this character's almond shaped eyes is like short term for saying that they're Asian, but like also what does that even mean? Everyone has almond shaped eyes. So, I don't know. It's
Yeah,
interesting.
and there's so much of that where it's only called out for the characters of color, and so you're like,
Right.
oh, obviously you're picturing everyone as white unless I tell you not to, and like that's not an assumption you necessarily want to make
Right,
on the
exactly.
behalf of your reader. Like
Exactly.
maybe
So it's like it's
a white
yeah,
kid.
and like I don't want like if I want there to be I want it to feel like there are people of color in this story. And like there are people of color in Charles's family. And like I think, Charles isn't going to be like, and then my African American sister did this. So how do you describe it in a way that like isn't just in stereotypes, but also like does point the reader to like, hey, you should think about the fact that this is not Twilight where everyone is white. This is I'm trying to build a better Twilight, dang it. That was the whole point of this book. It would be a lot harder if your family wasn't just a bunch of white privileged people, Edward.
I definitely cannot be your authority on writing non-white races.
For sure.
But I do think when I'm reading, I think there's a point to be said about the way, especially in first person, the details a person notices or the way that they describe things should be part of their character. Like we do not need everyone's like first fiction press or fan fiction or archive AO3 story from when they were 12 where like I wake up in the morning and look in the mirror.
I see a bunch of preps
that my eyes are.
Yeah. But I'm thinking about, so there's a book that I really love that I hope I've told you both to read called Bone Gap by Laura Ruby.
It's
and
on my list, yes.
In it, so I'll be vague then about it. So in it, the main character will describe the people and like around him in kind of like, it doesn't seem necessarily like it's a specific way, but later on it becomes like a detail that's relevant to the story because you find out something about that character that is like aligned with how they see and perceive other people and describe the world. So it's like one of those things where like when I was reading it, I didn't necessarily notice. I mean, one of my friends that I recommended to was like, oh yeah, I figured that out in the first 2 chapters. But I personally did not notice this thing based just on the descriptions. But when it was revealed and I went back and reread it, it was really clear like, oh yes, the way that this character describes people is aligned with this thing we find out about them later. And then I think oftentimes when I am reading a story, and I think that this might come up when you get people's backstories where there's like a racial difference, it'll come up in the context of a difference. So like either like, oh yeah, there's this cultural thing that I do or have, or like this person has treated me differently because of this.
Right.
But again, maybe that's actually a bad way to do that. So
yeah,
It
it's,
makes sense the way your point of view character notices other people, or like what is
Right.
important in there. This is my first impression of this person is going to be a reflection of something about your point of view character. Like you're telling the reader something about your character in the way that they view other people.
right. And I think it's an interesting case with Charles because like, for example, I have a part that I think I might have to cut, but like basically he has a confrontation in one of his class with some alt-writer kids, and like they say a bunch of like dog whistle stuff that Charles doesn't totally pick up on because Charles is not like on the internet. Yeah, Charles basically knows things through his Minecraft friends, and his Minecraft friends are not alt-writers. But like he picks up enough that he's like, I mean, I'm a 200-year-old vampire. I'm not a freaking idiot. And,
Charles is kind of How Do You Do, Fellow Kids, except that some of the alt-right stuff is like the stuff of literal eugenicists and Nazis, and like Charles lived through that. So
exactly. And so like I want to keep at least some of this because like he gets really angry at them, and like they get angry at him because basically like he doesn't quite call them Nazis, but he almost calls them Nazis, and some other kid in the class like films it because I think that's fairly accurate if there are some obnoxious kids in your high school getting put down, and it kind of gets spread around the school, which is like why they try to get him suspended. But fail because they are bad at it. But like he talks to his therapist about it later, and she's like, so why did you even confront them about this? Because they weren't talking about it specifically to you. And he said, because like I used to be one of them. Like I grew up in a time where I was told that like you were better if you were white and a boy and like had money. And like it took me a long time of like spending significant amounts of time around like people who were not like that and were like also clearly smart and functioning individuals. And so it makes me so angry to see like teenagers these days like not even raised in the sort of stereotypes that I was, and like yet still making the world around them harder for people like this, when like it's really responsibility for people of privilege like us to make the world easier for people. Like we are playing on easy mode here, and we should be making the world easier for other people around us. And like it wasn't entirely something that I expected him to say, but like as I was writing, I was like, no, like Charles is totally going to rant to his therapist about this. Is something that is near and dear to his heart. So I think it's interesting because like I think that Charles like is definitely going to like, you know, he's not going to claim that like, you know, crap where he's like, I'm colorblind and I don't notice people's race at all. Like I think to him he would just be very sensitive about it. Because like he lives with a multicultural family and like has lived abroad significant amount of his life and knows that it's, you know, much more complicated than that. And like Charles is a much better person than I am, so how do I even write that? I don't know. Charles is what I aspire to be. He's a good dude.
I like him a lot.
I mean, he's had more time to work on it.
He has had significantly more time to work on it. And it's also funny, like, writing this. Seriously, it's like what I was saying before, that, like, Charles is like, I'm a teenager, and me, I'm like, you are not, like, even coming off close to a teenager. Like, what are you talking about? Like, he'll be very deferential with his teachers, but, like, the moment one of them is just like, hey, I think maybe you should try to do this because, like, you're a bright kid and you should apply yourself more. He's like, psh, I'm an adult. I do what I want.
I would have a hard time going to high school again, I will say. Also, Caitlin, I'm judging myself a lot because I definitely knew that was Raising Cane's just from the toast.
Oh, I did talk about it like way back when we started
I know, but I was late, so.
But yes, this is what happened. I took a short nap this afternoon and I woke up from my short nap and I was like, I'm really craving French fries. I should probably go buy French fries before the stream. And then I thought of all the places nearish me that I could walk to and buy French fries. And then I was like, but I could just drive to Raising Cane's and get French fries and fried chicken.
Yeah.
A good call.
So I did.
Good call. So I don't know how long y'all had intended this to go, but I will have to leave soon.
We should probably wrap up because it has been almost 3 hours.
Yeah.
I'm seeing that in the little clock up there.
Oh,
We've
sorry.
had like very little actual music writing, but I've shown off some of my the many, many, many unfinished products that are on this laptop that hopefully does not die.
Well, I guess maybe to like wrap things up and close out, is there a science thing you've been reading or like enjoying lately, and or is there just a thing that has been giving you joy?
I actually even thought about this earlier today. I was like, am I gonna need to bring a science corner?
Madigan left, so she didn't have to.
Oh man, I don't super have a science corner. I've been watching one thing that's been nice about working from home with all of this pandemic stuff is that when there are rocket launches, I can put them on my big TV and watch them in the middle of the day or early in the morning.
Ooh.
I'm a little surprised that that's not just part of your work office thing.
I
Like,
mean, like a lot of times it happens. You know, somebody will be like, "Oh, hey, they're about to launch such and such," and we'll go. What was really fun was when I worked in Florida for a little while, and it was.
oh no, we lost sound.
Your audio cut out.
But I assume what you were saying is you could just go down the street to watch the rocket launch. Yes, maybe. Oh, no.
Hello?
Oh, we got you.
All right, cool. I like touched the plug of the headphones. Apparently I shouldn't have. Yeah, no, when I was working in Florida for a little while, like if there was a rocket launch that day, we would just all like, oh, hey, it's 10 till. Let's go outside in the parking lot and, 2 miles that way. Let's watch it.
Yeah.
3 miles that way, which was really fun. But yeah, it's a little easier to interrupt the day, or like a lot of times they'll be early in the morning, and so normally I would have to be like getting dressed and driving to work or whatnot, but then like now we're here, so it's like I can make my coffee and watch a rocket launch and then start the day. So that's been kind of fun. One little perk of being home all the time.
Yeah. I was gonna I just kind of like save interesting articles now in case Science Corner.
In case we ever record again.
At some point we're gonna we should
Don't
like,
worry, we have plans.
yeah, we should like start scheduling our next recording again.
Mhm.
I got an article from The Guardian that was talking about how these neuroscientists like blasted a speaker into a bunch of worms and found that they like jiggled in time with it or something like that. Like the worms moved.
The worms dance.
they vibrate. That's what it is. Yeah. So they blasted a speaker and they found that the vibrations I guess they vibrate to it kind of like water, and it's very interesting and weird. So I don't know how it's useful, but yeah. Dance, worms, dance.
I am going to recommend, and I might have recommended this on the episode that I'm still editing, so I apologize if I've recommended it twice.
Gosh.
But 2 of our former guests have formed a science book club with each other that they host monthly on YouTube. Nice. And that is Nicole Sweeney. Sweeney says she was on our Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. episode, and Deboki, for her channel is Okie Dokie Boki, and she was on our Scientific Women in Romance episode. So they have the second Saturday of every month, they do a live show and talk about a book, and they're kind of doing both like harder science books and like social science books. So the one we just finished was I Contain Multitudes, which is about your microbiome. And then the one that we are reading next is about kind of the science of algorithms on the internet and how it can like make the inequalities of our existing systems just amplify them. think I'm remembering correctly. I don't remember the specific title, so I'll like put that in the show notes or something. But I highly recommend that book club because they pick like a pretty wide variety of books, and it's always enjoyable to watch them discuss them. And they come from both like a really like PhD in bioengineering, I think, background, which Deboki has, and then like a more social science background that Sweeney has. So it's nice.
Cool.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, thanks
All
for
right.
Continue to be amused at y'all's collection of Nicole's.
Yeah, I know.
I know.
Like more Nicole's, and then we can have a Nicole convention.
Yes,
We're gonna have a tournament of Nicole's.
exactly.
Well, I mean, you guys still battle me for Supreme Nicole of the Nerdy Podcast.
It's true.
Yes.
It's true.
So.
No one has taken me up on it so far, but
All right,
We don't
well-
want the responsibility is the trick, because then we'd have to write the songs and edit the audios.
Exactly.
We don't
I
want
mean,
to do that.
you know, you could, but that would leave me more time to write the random crap that's not finished on my laptop.
Well, thank you for being a special guest.
Yes, thank you.
Space Nicole.
Thank you to
And
listening to
And
my
congratulations to y'all for 2 years worth of
Yeah.
know.
science works.
it's
Yeah,
kind
I
of
remember
amazing.
y'all were like first talking about this idea, and I'm astounded that it's 2 years later.
Yes.
We've only released 32 episodes, so you can tell we haven't been consistent about it, but we do keep releasing them.
But we do have a consistently excellent quality of entertainment. So
Yes, I think that's probably accurate. I feel too like there are a lot of podcasts that do kind of release episodes intermittently. So we are not alone in that, especially podcasts that aren't done by professionals,
Yeah.
which we are not.
if you, as a viewer, have made it this far in the playback, please let us know by commenting with an emoji, any emoji, your favorite emoji. Just like to warm the cockles of my heart that you actually watched 3 hours of us.
Your favorite dinosaur.
Oh, your favorite or you can comment with your favorite dinosaur. How's that?
Always
You
fun.
can
There's
do
only 2 dinosaur emojis, so
you can do
It's a
it with our dinosaur online escape room where we freaked out the host because
That was
as
a
a
lot of fun.
fun.
so all right, I'm gonna end the broadcast. But
All right. Thanks, y'all.
Bye.
bye.